Will AEW Collision be a success? That is the major topic we're going to talk about here today on the channel because, of course, AEW Collision main hits debut last night. Saturday Night Wrestling is back, of course, if you're in the States as well. For us in the UK and, of course, in Europe, that is silly o'clock in the morning, but another night of the week that we can look forward to professional wrestling. The likes of seeing CM Punk, Andrade El Idolo, Miro came back. We know Thunder Rosa will be there in the near future as well. We'll be talking about CM Punk. We'll be talking all about his return as well. Everything he had to say, perhaps things he didn't say as well. We'll be talking about that main event also. There's a new TNT champion in Luchasaurus. And if you look things over in WWE, there is a Bloodline Civil War that's been announced for Money in the Bank. One of the biggest and possibly best finishes in SmackDown history. So lots to discuss. The chat is going wild. I want to say thank you to everybody that has got involved in the chat before we've even started. Temple Plays in the house, Robbie Collins in the house, Richard, JR, of course, there, C Nation Dog, Eric Douglas. Shout out to all of you that already got involved in the comments below. But just before we do start, I just want to quickly start by saying hello to our good friend and co-host NX Steve in the house. NX Steve, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, right? It's been a while. I was glad I was actually talk wrestling for once, man. Like I said, it's been since I think predictions. I think that was last time I was on, so I'm glad to be back, man.
Absolutely, indeed. Then just take from Robbie Collins here. Saturdays nights, all right for fighting. I want to do it in the full Elton John there for you, but we're on a Sunday night. We are doing it a day later, but Sunday night is all right for talking, is what I say. We're going to review this show to some form and degree, but first off, Elton John being all elite, of course. Have you had the chance to see Collision at all?
I've seen the YouTube highlights, which I tell you what, this was my biggest thing about AEW was when Dynamite and Rampage were on, is you wouldn't get like how WWE does it when Raw and SmackDown's on the following day. If you can't watch the whole show, they put all the highlights up. I used to love it. Then Dynamite Rampage, they'd spread them out over 2 or 3 days. But with Collision, woke up this morning, all the highlights were there for me to watch. And I tell you what, it's so much better and so much easier for me to take in.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the thing. If you can't see it, that is a good way to catch up, and that's why. And I want our chat to get involved in this because I've put polls up on all social media platforms because I want to know: is Collision one show too many? I'll be in the wrestling calendar because that's why I deem it. Is it going to be a success? Because if you look at last night's show, I watched the full show. I've seen it, and I've got to say, I thought it was a very good show. I think from start to finish, there's talking points throughout, a lot of returns, a lot of talking points. Obviously, CM Punk being in Chicago, that in itself is a big thing as well. Whether you love him or you hate him, it's still going to get people talking. But what's it going to be like in a month from now? What's going to happen when all the returns have come in? What's going to happen when all these people are bedded in, got their storylines going on? Is it going to be like that instant Rampage that had fantastic views? I think when CM Punk came in on Rampage, you got like 1.3 million viewers. Look at Rampage now. Where is it now? A year and a half later. I'm wondering if it's one show too many on the wrestling calendar week because you have Raw, you have NXT, you got SmackDown. Obviously, you mentioned Dynamite, Rampage, Impact Wrestling, NWA, MLW. Depends what your wrestling fix is. It's all out there. Not forgetting New Japan and other companies like that as well. So there's lots of stuff out there. And obviously, a Saturday night. And let's not forget, with Saturday nights, WWE do their premium live events on Saturday nights. Now, with Money in the Bank, they'll get a free pass there because that's going to be earlier in the day because of the fact that, well, it's going to be in the United Kingdom. But what happens when there's SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania? What happens in that time? Does Collision take a big, heavy hit?
I don't know. Maybe it's a case of that they do like what they do with any other time of the year. Like if there's something else that needs to take priority, that they can just move the show to another day on the week. So maybe it gets moved to a Thursday, for instance. It's not out of the normal for a AEW to move their shows to a different day. So it's a possibility. It's just a brave choice to sit there and go up against WWE's pay-per-view slots now, because instead of them being on a Sunday, they're moving them to a Saturday, which I always find is a better day to watch them on anyway. So it's the good thing is it's going to do well every week. There isn't a WWE pay-per-view on, so you can't complain with that, really.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the thing is, you do have something there, and if it is something for everybody, then brilliant. I did put some polls out to ask how people were standing on it. The last time I checked on my Twitter feed, 2/3 of people watched Collision, a third of them didn't. Now, because we don't take into account there, did those people watch AEW anyway? They could be anti-AEW, but if you watch Dynamite or you watch a lot of wrestling, was it a show too much? I'd like people in the chat to get involved. Is this a show you can see yourself watching on a weekly basis? Is it something that's one too many? Is AEW priority? Let us know in the comments below. On Twitter as well, it was around a similar figure. I think it was 68%, 69%. I'm in fact going to look in a couple of moments just to confirm the number for you, because the poll's still going on. But NXT, just to say, on a weekly basis, is it something you'll continue to look through via highlights, or is it something that you'll try and check out yourself setting up for this first week?
I think it's a case for me. I'll take it week by week, because normally, like over here in the UK, when the football's on, match of the day is repeated early mornings of a Sunday. So if I get up, match of the day is on the TV, so I'll watch that. If the Formula One's on, I'm a big Formula One fan. I have a tendency to watch that, and it's a case of whether it will fit into, if I have time to we'll get around to watching it. Otherwise, I will just stick to the YouTube highlights. But then again, it's very rarely I watch a Raw or SmackDown live now. I will just tend to watch YouTube highlights. To be fair, they're quite good with their highlight packages. You don't tend to miss most of the stuff. They usually get it all in those like 3, 4, 5 minute videos.
And that's always an alternative. Social media is a big part in wrestling these days. In fact, with everything really at this point. Does everyone have 3 hours to give, 2 hours to give on each sort of weekly basis? Like you say, it's an alternative that is out there and perhaps something that people will look to do.
Am I right in thinking that they've stopped doing Dark and Dark Revelation or whatever it is now as well? They've only got Rampage, Dynamite, and Collision now.
Yes, along with Ring of Honor as well. So now they'll do their tapings. Right. Dynamite and Rampage will be on the Wednesday, and obviously the Rampage will go out on the Friday night. They have, I believe, then Collision and Ring of Honor that will take place on the Collision night on the Saturday. So those will be the alternative shows. So it kind of feels like now you have that ability where Dynamite is Raw, Collision is SmackDown, Rampage is main event, and Ring of Honor's NXT. That's pretty much where it's standing at this point.
I think as well, this kind of further cements the point that AEW are going to be running all their pay-per-views on Sundays now as well. Because if Collision's going to be on every Saturday, obviously we'll be used to All Out and Double or Nothing all being on Saturday night. So that's the only thing I can think now. And I think, again, it's better for them because then they haven't got to go up against WWE, aside from if they were to run a pay-per-view the same weekend as WrestleMania, which is not very common that they would do.
No, absolutely not. And I think, like you say, with Forbidden Door, that's going to be on the Sunday. We know All In will be on a Sunday as well at Wembley Stadium. So it does look to be the common theme that AEW does this right now. Just to clarify then, on the community page, it is 65% did watch Collision last night. So again, it's 2/3 of the portion of the audience that do, or the one person did comment. Patrick said that he doesn't support AEW in general. So obviously, like you say, there's some people, if they're not going to watch any of it, then it doesn't really matter. Let's go into some of the comments we've got from our guests, because we have stacks of them in right now, more than Channing Lorenzo at this point. That's how much stacked we are in the comment section right now. But literally, we will be talking CM Punk, like I say, throughout the stream. Obviously, we'll probably got some comments and they'll mention it. We will talk about it in detail at some point. The same with Money in the Bank as well. So just to say very quickly, Temple in the house with plenty of comments to kick things off says, tell me if I'm telling lies. Obviously, their CM Punk line that was using throughout the promos. Clearly, it seemed to be a dig for me of Bobby Fish. If you remember his Impact special promo we did, where's the lie, to a stunned silence. It feels like CM Punk got his kind of bit of revenge in on that one there. Obviously, as well, Temple Plays also goes on to say, funny how people are telling me that Jay White is buried in AEW. No, he's not. He was in the main event of the first Collision in the ring with CM Punk. Just stop. Again, tell me if I'm telling lies. He was in the main event of Collision. What's your feelings of Jay White? Because I have heard some people say that Jay White has not had the best run in AEW so far. And to those, I tend to respond and say, well, you look at moments like this, he's not just main evented Collision, he's main evented the Dynamite as well, recently with Ricky Starks. But I mean, he is someone that's not just been shot-putted straight into the main event scene. They're looking to build him up. But I would say that Jay White, to me, at the moment, hasn't been booked as much to his strengths. His promo work is unbelievable. And when given the opportunity, can take things to another level, to take stories to another level. What's your thoughts of Jay White in AEW so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's meant to be part of a tag team with this whole Bullet Club Gold. I mean, I don't know what it's supposed to be. I'm not a big fan of the name, if I'm honest. I would have preferred something like maybe, I don't know, Bullet Club Diamond or Bullet Club Platinum. Do you know what I mean? Gold's just a bit of a, whatever. But I can agree with what you're saying. A lot of people have said it. They feel he's underused, but then I think with AEW that there's a lot of other stuff going on. They've got so much going on, obviously, with this new TV show starting, with Punk returning. I feel there's so much stuff going on backstage that everyone that's in front of stage is sort of suffering at the minute. But like I said, hopefully now that Collision has started, Punk's back, this can all start airing out better. Yeah, I mean, I prefer him as a singles wrestler, but then it's a case of, well, no, you're not even saying that fans getting to know him, because you tend to think that AEW is more of the hardcore fan base, so they know him from New Japan. Same as with Will Ospreay and the United Empire. These fans know who these people are. So I can imagine that a lot of people are disappointed at his current situation.
I mean, the thing is, people are entitled with the feeling, like you said, with the disappointment with the current situation. For me, I still believe it's early days, and I do feel that for me, I would have liked to see him coming in a bigger role into AEW, but like you said here from Temple Place, he's now sharing the ring with the likes of CM Punk. He's obviously now got like this feud going with Ricky Starks, which will transition perhaps to FTR with the way that things are going. There is some potential big plays that could happen for Jay White in the future. I'd like to think he will eventually get to the main event scene, but obviously you can't push everybody at the same time. And Jay White is a heel. He's a heel. MJF is currently the world champion. Why would it make sense to have Jay White go for MJF at this point? It certainly wouldn't. It would only make sense if you had a world champion on both shows, which could be something we might touch on with CM Punk a little bit from now. Richard Rome's in the house as well, says pick the attack of Wendy Chu, Cora Jade, or Mary Miller. I'm going to pick Blair Davenport because it was Blair Davenport. There's no need to go around it. It was Blair. That's who it was. We've got C Nation saying Luchasaurus captures single gold before Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Absolutely. But I've got to say very quickly, I love the celebration of this match from Christian Cage. Like, I'm the champion, holding up there. Obviously, being like Jungle Boy as well, being on Luchasaurus' shoulders. Easy for me to say. Shoulders. It kind of felt almost like Luchasaurus is literally Christian Cage's pet at this point.
It does feel that way. Like I said, I like Christian Zahil. I think he's fantastic. Even when he was doing his whole one more match stick in WWE, I've always loved Christian Zahil, and he's such a easy to hate guy that I just think that it gets across so well, and it's fantastic.
He just looks like a Bond villain for me in a movie at the moment, the way he's portrayed. It's beautiful. For me, I mean, it's Christian Cage's work at the moment. Some of it is some of my favourite that I've seen him do in his career, actually. I'm quite a fan of the role at the moment. But Wardlow, though, did he get buried last night, says C Nation Dog? The fact that he lost to a wrestler having a dinosaur gimmick. I mean, to be fair, Luchasaurus has been booked like a modern day Kane. I mean, would we say that, when people lost to Kane in that way, it would be a bad thing? I'm not so sure. That it's a bit of a darker theme that Luchasaurus is going down. So I'm kind of okay with the fact of that, but I do think Wardlow needs something to freshen him up. The TNT title clearly hasn't worked for him on 3 separate occasions now in the last 12 months. What does Wardlow need to do now? Because he seems to need to go back to the drawing board.
He needs to get serious now and go after MJF for that world title. Even if he doesn't win it, I think having a proper feud with MJF would suit him more to the ground. But then going back to this comment here, I mean, it works because Luchasaurus is a heel. I think if he was a baby face, then yeah, maybe you could say Wardlow was slightly buried. But let's be honest, it's the TNT title. It's hot potato so much at the minute that it's kind of like you expect people to win it every so often. It's like it's not out of the normal for the champion to lose this title.
Absolutely not there. And obviously as well, here, C Nation also going to say that championship is a joke. Luchasaurus just handed the belt to Christian Cage. But the thing is, I really like the way it was put together. I mean, obviously, we can say what we want about the TNT title. It's been a bit of hot potato in the last sort of 12 months to 18 months or so. But at the same time, I do feel now it's actually in some rightful hands because Christian Cage, like I said, he's doing great work. I love the idea that he's not the one that's the champion, but yet he's the one that's portraying himself as the champion. It's just something a bit different in the storyline narrative to see going forward. The fact that Christian can act like the champion, but yet set out his pet project to go and do the dirty work for him. Again, it just screams Bond villain. I'm all over this 100%.
Yeah, 100%. I love Christian. So that hopefully it plays back in, and maybe Jungle Boy is the next person to win that TNT title off of Luchasaurus. Maybe, do you know what I mean? That maybe that's the angle they're going forward.
Absolutely. I want to go through some of the Temple Plays comments because otherwise I will get lost if I shuffle up too much on the comments. I like to make sure I get everybody's on. Temple does say that it's great to see Miro back. He predicts Miro to dethrone Orange Cassidy for the international title. Could Miro perhaps go for the TNT title at one point to try and redeem that championship?
It's a possibility. I mean, again, it's all all the story dynamic and how it all plays out. I mean, props to Orange Cassidy. He's had such a great run with that title, but like he's almost getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of bored now. I think this is getting to the point where you need to drop this title at some point. But yeah, I mean, if Miro doesn't win it and he goes for that TNT title instead, I'd be all up for it. I mean, how can one guy have so much bad luck with two different wrestling companies that he just can't get to the top where he should be? Like he gets there so naturally. It's just it's so unfair essentially to see him suffer. But like I said, hopefully this is all a new start and like a turning point for him, and like he can go on to bigger and better things from here.
Fingers crossed. I'm a big fan of Miro. It's great to see him back there, and obviously he destroyed Tony Nese last night. The guy looks, like you say, looks like a champion, and hopefully championship gold will be in his future. Whether it's the international, TNT, world title, I don't think we would complain. And also, Temple Plays cool. He did call this out, by the way, House of Black against the LFI months ago, and obviously Andrade versus Malachi. Take my money. Certainly was great to see Andrade back in the mix. A fantastic match with Buddy Murphy last night, winning with the figure 8. Charlotte Flair's move there. For me, I thought it was a very tasteful way that match A was done. I love the story with it, with Buddy Matthews hurting his leg. And obviously that played into the finish there. I'm excited to see what they could do here with Andrade now back in AEW.
Yeah, again, another one. Hopefully that this is now the turning point that it like he can also elevate himself and go on to bigger and better things. I mean, apart from the trios title, let's be honest, the House of Black haven't really done a lot. So hopefully, again, it's a new starting point for some of these people. Point proven last night, Buddy Murphy. It was such a fantastic match, man. And I say I love Buddy Matthews. Sorry, I keep calling him Buddy Murphy from the old days. But like I said, it's hopefully just a nice way to reset some of these people and start again.
Absolutely, indeed. There, we'll just read through these comments then, so we're getting quite quickly. We will go to CM Punk properly very shortly, but of course, there Joe does seem to be that first feud back for CM Punk. Definitely was played throughout that 6-man tag team match. Having Seth Rollins defend the World Heavyweight Championship every week is overkill for me. Personally, for me, I just think it's great to see a world champion defending. At the moment, we have a champion that's around, that's a fighting champion. Roman, it's so few and far between. It feels a nice breath of fresh air for Monday Night Raw to get that. And before, when Rollins had the match against Damian Priest just a couple of weeks ago, Raw didn't have a world title match on its show for 2 whole years. So for me, I don't feel it overkill just yet.
No, not yet. It's still a couple of weeks to go yet before it becomes overkill. But the fact that he's defending it on NXT, I think, is a massive deal as well. They're trying to seriously elevate this title.
Absolutely, indeed. And like you say there, obviously with Bron Breakker as well, if that's not a ratings grab, I don't know what is. Of course it's a ratings grab, and what a ratings grab it should be. There's not a problem with trying to grab ratings. CM Punk brought in last night. That's trying to grab ratings. Everything that was done with the Bloodline, obviously on SmackDown this past week, will Jay fall in line. It's all about trying to get ratings. You can see what it's done with social media with the Bloodline stuff, of course, after SmackDown. For me, Seth versus Braun makes so much sense to do on NXT as well, because Seth is winning that match. There's no two ways about it. And the thing is as well, Bron Breakker is protected on a smaller scale, smaller audience, casual audience is not watching. It's a hardcore NXT fan base. Bron can afford the loss at this point. When he goes to Raw or SmackDown later down the line, that's when you want to protect him. And for me, this has got a potential, could be a match of the year for WWE on its hands here, because Bron Breakker is a great performer.
I've got a feeling this is actually more to do with Bron going up to main roster. I think this is going to be the way that they get him off of NXT, like without having to do it via the draft.
Absolutely, certainly could be a way to do it. Obviously, he could prove his worth to being there. I still think he's got a few to finish with Ilya Dragunov, though. That could be something that could play into that match as well. Again, we'll just read this for the moment because obviously, like I said, I want to read them all in order, trying to get everybody's through. But Roman and Solo versus Usos, Money in the Bank would be great. Absolutely fantastic for London. Pitching the idea that Solo will turn on Roman, the Simone Spike leading Solo versus Roman for the title. Like the suggestion there, we'll be giving our take a little bit later on. Richard here with his take on the fact of Raquel Rodriguez beating Trish Stratus. But I don't know about Becky getting screwed. Setting up Trish versus Indy. Richard, I don't think that's going to happen, my friend. It's not going to happen. But C Nation does say, why did they change the ROH television title? The old design was much better. Kind of probably got the same idea that WWE had. Just changed those belt designs. It's probably time for a change. And some prefer them, the old style. Some may like the new style. What's your thought on the ROH TV title?
I think it's just a case of because it's under new management and just change the design, change the aesthetic, and bring it more up to date with what Tony Khan wants it to look like and stuff. I mean, we have this same problem every time they change the TV belts. Loads of people hate the new design. Loads of people like it. Some people wish it stayed the same. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of them things, unfortunately. I mean, I'm still not a fan of the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that giant W is still a bit of an eyesore for me. I'm not a fan of Roman's title. I think the gold is a bit tacky, if I'm honest. I don't know. It's just one of them things, unfortunately, that we have to suffer with.
It reminds me of seeing this kind of spinner kind of vibe with all that gold and bling that was on it back in the mid-2000s kind of vibe there. So, Eric, I'm not going to pull you first comment, my friend, but I do agree with you. It certainly is quite random what you've written in the comments. C Nation says, I did not watch Collision last night. Too much stuff to do, but I look at the results and see it's not going to be there for everybody at this particular moment. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see if it's going to be a success long-term. Collision. I hope for AEW it will be, because the set looked like the real deal as well. I really like the way that the set was sent out. It looked like a proper wrestling show. I really hope that we're able to put together that they can continue that momentum that they started with last night. C Nation goes on to say, I was right. Moose and Brian Myers said last week in Impact that they wanted to challenge ABC for the Impact Tag Team titles, which will be most likely at Slammiversary. Not had the chance to see Impact as of yet, but fun that that's actually the case, C Nation. Thank you for sharing the information. Yeah, I guess that it's good to see that that will be coming through if that's the case. But Moose's contract expires in June, so it could be on an episode of Impact Wrestling. Interesting. If Moose was to leave Impact, have you seen much of him, and would you reckon he'd be a good fit for somewhere else?
I think the problem is Moose should have left a couple of years ago when there was some real hype about him, like before or just as AEW was starting up. There was a lot of hype with Moose's contract renewal and all this kind of stuff, and I think that would have been more of a prime time for him to move. I think now, I don't think he'll have as big of an impact as what he could have done 2-3 years ago.
Agreed. I think if he was to go somewhere like AEW, he'd have a chance of being like, if they were going to push this like this brand split idea of one of the shows, if he went to WWE, I think it would have to be NXT, but I don't know what sort of role he would fit in at this present stage. But Moose is a hell of a talent for me.
But that's what I'm saying. 3 years ago, you'd have had him debuting in the Rumble. There was all the rumors he was going to be in the Rumble. Do you know what I mean? He would have been on the main roster. And I think now he's sort of the pipe isn't there. He's NXT / Ring of Honor. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I just don't think he's got that big enough. Well, he has got a draw to him still, but just not as big as what it was.
I would agree. It's not as big as what it was. Hell of a talent still there. I mean, obviously for me as an Impact fan, I hope he stays put. He should be someone that should be in and around the championship scene rather than being involved in the tag division. But hey, that's another discussion, I guess, for another day. But Wardlow had another short reign as AEW TNT champion. He certainly did. I believe it was 59 days this time. They made mention to it on commentary. Again, commentary was solid as well last night for Collision. Kevin Kelly, Nigel McGuinness there. What a great combination that was there. Ring of Honor 2012 kicking in nice and strong. C Nation says Collision will have to compete with WWE pay-per-views. They certainly will indeed, or PLEs they say these days, but you are right on the money there. Wardlow will be a 15-time TNT champion by the end of 2024. Well, I mean,
possible.
That'll be it's certainly, you wouldn't rule it out at this point, would you? But I mean, Ric Flair certainly wouldn't class it as a world champion. I think his record would still be feeling safe at that moment. And Wardlow,
if that was the case, R-Truth would be the greatest wrestler in the world with the amount of 24/7 title runs he's had.
Hey, that's a fantastic point you make there. Absolutely. Why is WWE not? But I guess that's why the title was got rid of, wasn't it? So we can't remember it. We have to casually forget about it. Why is Wardlow it's still in the TNT title picture? He's had it for over a year. He needs a feud without a title to build him up again. I agree. He needs to do something fresh and something new. And fingers crossed. For me, I would hope a heel turn would be good for Wardlow. I think that's what could be good for him at this point. Evan Arn-Anderson there, like you said, a serious side for Wardlow as well. I think is something we'd see going forward.
It's the same thing I've been saying about AEW for the last couple of years. Is they do really well at building these people up to win titles, and then they win them, and then 95% of them just fall flat from there on. When Hangman won the world title, honestly, just his whole trajectory just went flat. I mean, there's only a couple of people, Kenny, for example, MJF, that have managed to almost stay relevant as champion. Whereas I feel that everyone else that's won a title, except for maybe Jade Cargill, because she'd been TBS champion for the longest time ever. But like, as soon as most of the male wrestlers had won the TNT title, that was it. It just fell flat, and then they'd swap it and do it with someone else, and they'd go on to building the next person.
Absolutely. The International Championship now has gone up levels. I mean, Orange Cassidy is the one now that seems to be holding the best mid-card title outside of it. But I have a feeling with that TNT title now, it was mentioned earlier on about Jungle Boy. That's the title that he's probably going to take from Luchasaurus. I can see him revisiting that before the end of the year. Christian Cage obviously being the one showcasing he's kind of got it as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to that at some point later in 2023. This will be Rampage 2.0. Give it a month. I hope not a month, but I do see the point of what's being said there. Also, my brain is still trying to process why Roman Reigns has 3 belts. I thought they introduced the new belt to make it 1, but now he has 3. I have a theory on this, and it's Steve, but I want to get your take first.
I was just going to say I'm equally as confused, just as the same reasons why Charlotte came out and asked for the Raw Women's Championship instead of the one that they just give Oscar. I was a bit confused and perplexed by that, so I don't know what's going on with that in a minute.
It's interesting because, I mean, I'm just going off a theory here. Obviously, Roman Reigns has got that new championship, but it's supposed to carry the lineage of the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship. But of course, right now, the idea is that it's more focused on the Universal Championship because of the fact that Roman held that one first and has held that for over 1,000 days. He's not held the WWE Championship that long, but obviously, if you were to just carry the lineage right now of the Universal title, you're throwing away 60 years of history of the WWE Championship. Even if it's temporary, that's going to upset a big portion of your fan base, and this guy included that's talking right now. So to keep that lineage there, Roman still has those 2 belts showcased in the background of this is what that championship represents. Until he loses it, I think that all them championships will be sticking around. Heyman's carrying, by the way, the heavy luggage as well as the wise man is what he is. So it's a reminder of what the lineage is. Plus, Roman, he's a belt collector, isn't he, at this point? Roman just looks that much better, that much more the head of the table. Unfortunately, it doesn't do much for Seth Rollins, who just has 1 world championship sitting on Raw. But still, it does make Roman look great.
Let's be honest, that 3rd belt's been a bit of a jinx since he's got it, because everyone just seems to kick him in the mush every time he's been at it.
Kind of true. Yeah, Roman's chin's been a bit sore since getting the new championship. But yeah, I mean, obviously the ending of SmackDown was absolutely amazing. Again, we will be talking about more about that in detail very, very soon because the chat is still blowing up and we're trying to keep up as best as we can. Ed Fry says we need to talk more about the one Bill Phil that I wish we could give to charity so wouldn't have to hear about him anymore. Bad news, Ed. We'll be talking about CM Punk in a little while. But yeah, it's quite eventful stuff last night from CM Punk. Sinister Dog says Collision on July 1st may have bad ratings because of Money in the Bank on the same day. It may do, but it also may be saved because Money in the Bank will be at, I believe, 3 p.m. Eastern time, which will be 5 hours earlier than when Collision is due to go on air because of the fact it's in London, baby. Just watch Friends, that particular episode in London just before I came on, so forgive any references in the next hour or so. Sination says Saturday may still be my wrestling day off. Sorry, but I have other stuff to do. To be fair, that's a fair comment. Certified Wrestling Podcast in the house. Hope you are doing well. Thank you for checking out the stream. As well as that, as well, Irish Wrestling Entertainment says, as long as don't put all their eggs in Phil's basket, Collision should do okay. Do you think that that's a fair comment there? Because obviously CM Punk has come back. There are rumors that this guy is going to get to do quite a fair bit of his own creative. Obviously, we did see some of the stuff that he did say last night. Do you think that AEW may be just relying too much here on Phil for Collision?
I'd like to think that they're not. I think that obviously doing the show in Chicago, having Punk come back, it's instantly a draw. You know, the crowd's going to be massively behind him. It's going to make it better than what it was. I'd like to think that Tony's learned something in the last couple of years about putting all his eggs in one basket. And I would like to think that, although they say Punk has a lot of freedom in his creative, someone still has the final say on yes or no, whether you can do it or not.
You would hope so in this case with AEW with Tony Khan. You'd like to say, you'd like to think that something's been learned here. The only thing I would say is if, and again, we will talk more in detail as we go along through the stream, but if this show has been made to keep CM Punk away from the elites, what they're going to do on pay-per-views, because they're going to be under the same roof then. So that they will be face-to-face at some point. I'm guessing Forbidden Door, maybe one show too soon, because I imagine if CM Punk was going to have a match on that show, it would have been announced last night and made last night, because literally the next collision is 24 hours before Forbidden Door. I imagine that CM Punk now will not be on that show.
Well, who knows at this point? But I don't think it's been made purposely to keep them apart. I don't know. I think it's just a case of Tony rebranding, for example, and just like trying something different. Because, like I said, I've maybe watched one episode of Dark the whole time, and I think that's a lot of wrestling that they were doing every week that they were giving away for free. Now that they've got rid of the free stuff and it's now on a network, and now they're earning something from it apart from YouTube royalties, I think is more why they've done it. I imagine there's going to be some sort of crossover between the Elite and CM Punk. I'm not being funny. FTR are the tag team champions. You can't tell me that we're not going to get Young Bucks versus FTR again at some point.
I mean, I hope we get it at some point. It's the match I want. I mean, let's be fair. I want them to do business. I'd want to see it in a wrestling ring on my TV set. It feels like there'll be a lot of excitement if we got that match at some point. At the moment, though, it kind of gives the vibe, especially off TV last night, that not a lot has been kind of fixed in the last 9-10 months, sadly. But Certified Wrestling Podcast said thought it was done very well done last night. And I would agree, it was a really good show last night. Let's hope that they do keep that momentum going forward. Daz in the house, Daz, hope you're doing well. When do you think we'll get more matches announced for Forbidden Door? And we have 4 announced so far. No more were announced last. I was saying that 4 announced, confirmed. We technically have 6 in the books already, but of course, with Forbidden Door being next week, you imagine if 3 or 4 more matches are going to be announced, they're going to have to be announced on Dynamite or on Collision next week.
I'm hoping to think that they don't do what they did so many times before and have like 14 matches on the show. Do you know what I mean? And just keep it to a decent number. I mean, we're pretty much now. I think we're not going to get any women's matches at this point, because from what I've heard, that Stardom are not being used, which they did ask about, but New Japan have just said no. So you've got 4 matches already. I could probably see another 4 being added, and I think that's probably going to be a limit, because that's the one thing that really irritates me about AEW pay-per-views. It's just so many matches and so long. It just reminded me of Mania a couple of years ago when you used to get 7-hour Manias. It's just like, I can't do it no more.
Yeah, the stamina, I must admit, for me, I much more prefer a 3-hour show. But obviously, with a buy-in and, like you say, probably 4.5 hour show, it can have that ability to be a very long night.
Just to refresh my memory, what have we got so far? We've got Kenny versus Ospreay.
Yes, we've got Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. So that's the big dream match. So the 2 main events of the show. We've got Sonata defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Jungle Boy Jack Perry. He's accepted the open challenge that Sonata made on Dynamite this past week. We also have confirmed MJF going to be taking on Hiromu Tanahashi, obviously the legend from New Japan, against MJF. And of course, MJF does not want to do it. In fact, he did claim he's no shows before. He's threatened he will do that on this one as well. He's not really fancying this match at this particular moment, although it's still being advertised. We are being teased the idea of Orange Cassidy against Zack Sabre Jr. for probably title for title, or just a match itself anyway. And also looks like Shibata and Daniel Garcia could be one as well. They've got a tag team match, Orange Cassidy and Shibata against Zack Sabre Jr. and Daniel Garcia will be taking place this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. You mentioned about no women's matches. I agree with you, because Stardom, it looks like it's a no-go at this point. I do think they've got one little trick up the sleeve that could get away with it for a match to be announced. I think it was built last night on Collision. I think we could get AEW's Women's World Champion Toni Storm against the New Japan Strong Champion, and of course AEW roster member Willow Nightingale. I think that could be an addition that could be made to the match card here.
It's probably going to be your safest bet.
Probably at this point. But if any more matches will be announced, we'll have to wait till next week. But obviously, we see Suzuki is going to be in the house next week as well. Obviously, going to be teaming with Jericho and Sammy Guevara as well in a 6-man tag team match. So good to see we've got Crazy Grandpa going to be involved on this show, hopefully, as well. So yeah, hopefully that will go down. I'd like to see Jericho versus Suzuki. Hope something will break down, hopefully, in that match.
Oh my God. Just 2 old guys battering each other.
Why not? I'm here for it. Why not? Tony Khan has a grudge against Cody Rhodes, does he? and that's why he's booking the TNT title bad. Cody was a 3-time champion, so Tony Khan said, "I'm about to make the belt a joke," and we'll put that down as speculation at this point.
I was to say that I've never been a fan of the whole name of the title. It just felt like it's essentially just a TV title. I should have just called it that.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer TV title personally, although I see why they did what they did. But if they ever leave TNT, that could be a bit of a sticky one. But yeah,
don't you use TNT to make Dynamite, and do you know what I mean? You can kind of get away with it, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I like what you're going with that there. That's quite a good way. An escape clause, if you want, if you will. Certified Wrestling Podcast says, no, Saturday Night Wrestling is perfect. Well, it's good to see that it is there for some people out there. No, Tony Khan's announcements aren't even that big anymore. No, agreed, but certainly he'll get in there when he can. Orange Cassidy is having a long reign as international champion, so I feel like AEW are booking the TNT Championship belt on purpose because it was Cody Rhodes' belt in AEW. I mean, it has been Brody Lee's belt in WWE. In AEW, as well. Then obviously he's seen as the greatest TNT champion of all time. I would hate to think that they would put a bad lineage on that belt when he was someone that was highly respected when holding it back in its first year. So I would disagree with it respectfully. But hey, I mean, we're all entitled to our opinions, aren't we? End of the day. Certified says Orange and Tony Khan are actually real close. I've seen Orange actually at a lot of events Tony Khan's at, so I think he could be well onto something there. And Wardlow apparently has 6 months left on his contract, so he could be at least 2 more times before he leaves. If there is truth in that, do you reckon Wardlow would re-sign, or do you reckon WWE could come calling?
I imagine WWE would be interested. It's just whether or not he like you that's the problem with WWE. You seriously, every time you have to think about it, do I really want to go to this place where I know it's being run by a 70-year-old man who's so out of touch with wrestling that this could hinder my career or because let's be honest, we look at loads of guys that they've released and then re-signed again, and I'm pretty sure I heard rumors that there's going to be releases again at some point in the near future. So do you know what I mean? It's always a massive worry, but like I said, I think he just has to do whatever's best for him. I'm not being funny. If he's treated well, he's been a multi-time champion for AEW. I don't see a reason in it for him to leave. There's still a lot of narratives and creative there for him. It's not like he's got nothing to do. It's just a case of, I don't know, better storytelling better creative for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, like you said, he's been champion 3 times. It just needs to find something to click to get things back on the right track. It's not as if it's, it's going wrong, but it's not as if it's to the point that it's not recoverable at this point. Wardlow has still got a lot of tools in his arsenal that can get him easily back up the card very, very quickly if needed as well. And if they do move Rampage to Sunday, then I'll be super mad, lol. At C Nation, you'd have 7 days a week of wrestling. I mean, what would you do? What would you do? Temple Places AEW Collision is on a Saturday in the summer, though alongside NXT's PLE. People want to spend time with their family members on the Saturday night in the US. For people in the UK, probably fast asleep. I mean, the thing is, WWE shows, though, do pretty well for the Saturday night slot. So, I mean, although I see the point, I see what's being said there, because it will be the case with people. Some people will be doing that. But obviously, when it comes to the big WWE shows, then that will be the case that people will tune in.
I think with the NXT ones now, they're starting to, because they obviously used to do them on the Saturday when WWE run their pay-per-views on a Sunday. I think that if NXT are going to run the same weekend as a normal main roster live event, it's going to be on a Sunday night. I think they're just going to swap the days around. So, like I said, it's only, 12, 13 times a year that it's going to come up against like 52 weeks, and you've got to give up 13 to go up against WWE pay-per-views. I think isn't that bad. But then as well, there is the time zone difference depending on where it is in the world. So for instance, if it's in Saudi Arabia, if it's in the UK, it's different times, so it's not really going to affect them.
No, that's true. It's a big feeling these days. Like you say, the Saudi show was a different time to usual. Obviously, Puerto Rico was the same, but I know they're going to do a show in India apparently later this year. So obviously that may change things again. So we'll see how it will play out when it does go about. The Miz to be an open challenge wrestler there, says Richard Rhodes. That's a prediction, by the way, not a spoiler at this point. And Eric Douglas, we're doing well. Thank you for checking that stream. Hope you were doing well also. Love this comment. Elton John versus Seth freaking Rollins for AEW AEW WWE's Forbidden Door. The wardrobe certainly would be interesting. There's no arguments in that. C-Nation says Seth Rollins shouldn't be defending the World Championship every week because it's predictable. He will defend the belt against Finn Balor at Money in the Bank. He will defend it against Finn Balor at Money in the Bank, but the question will be, is he defending it so much to get so many wins because he's going to be a short-term champion? That's something that we'll be probably having to discuss when it comes to prediction times later this month.
I mean, it's a possibility, but then there's also a case of, like, at this point, I don't think anyone knows what they're currently doing with Roman, and like, I think he's holding that title to Mania next year, but who takes him off of him at this point? I couldn't tell you. I mean, I could say Cody. You could say Seth if Seth isn't world champion at that point, because like we discussed before, the new Captain America films just after WrestleMania, and obviously Seth Rollins being in it, and what way to promote have your world champion say he's in a Marvel film, blah blah blah. So yeah, there's so many like if what's and nots with the whatever they're gonna do. But yeah, like I said, even if he is a short term champion, it's still a good way to kick it off, going across like going down to NXT and then traveling all the way to the UK to defend. It's not a bad championship reign, to be fair.
Not at all. Yeah, I have to agree with that 100% there. Temple suggesting the idea of changing the time slot for Collision, but that's the thing. We've just started Collision. That's a bad look on the show as well. If you change the slot straight away, obviously it's something you can do if you don't want to go against certain competition at certain times, but it can look pretty bad on the company. And obviously Impact tried it at one point against WWE back in yesteryear, over a decade or so ago, lasted 6 weeks. And of course, that arguably did no good for that company whatsoever at that time. C-Nation says Keith Lee has failed in AEW. I mean, I would say that, the guy nearly died, so I'm just pleased he's in the wrestling ring at this point. So I wouldn't class him as failed, but certainly it's great to see we can still see him perform on a weekly basis. C-Nation says, I'm enjoying the family story in NXT. I really hope that they are the next NXT Tag Team Champions. Obviously, the Tony D'Angelo stuff. Have you had a chance to check it out?
I think that Lorenzo is the rat. I think he's the one that got Tony D'Angelo arrested. I think that's what it's building to. It's building to the split because there's not. That's what I think it is anyway. I think it sounds like the corniest Sopranos stuff that you could ever think, that it was someone in the family that ratted him out. And yeah, I've just got the impression it's Stacks that did it to him.
I like that. I still, obviously, for the Gallus way, I do feel that we said that NXT Tag Team Championship could be the future, but Stacks versus Tony D, and obviously, if Stacks did do something, dirty dog, absolutely. What to get to the head of the family as well. You wouldn't be surprised to see it. Noob becoming house. Hope you're doing well, Noob. Thank you for checking us out. C-Nation says you can't give Jay White an AEW world title shots right away. Let him build up to the main event, and like you say, it's a building spot. Obviously, yeah, people should perhaps know where the guy's been before, but like you say, you have to earn your stripes. Imagine coming straight into WWE and put straight at the top. Although Cody Rhodes kind of did that, so I guess that could counteract the argument as well.
He didn't win though, so let's be fair.
That's true. He's never going to finish that story, is he? Bless him. Nubicos says Outcasts are becoming more worse than Damage Control. I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of getting more into the Outcast now since Tony Storm won the championship. Am I on my own there?
Possibly, because I've not been watching any, because like I was saying at the top of the show when we were talking about YouTube highlights, because AEW spread their highlights out over like 3 days. I can't keep up with AEW, so I know that Tony's champion, and I know that obviously these three have been doing bits, but I've honestly, Steve, I'm not up to date with whatever they're doing at the minute, unfortunately. I would agree with you though. I think since Tony's become champion, it makes them more relevant and makes them more worthy of being on TV and stuff. I mean, Damage Control at this point is the biggest sinking ship ever. I mean, like, especially after this week with Bayley costing EO a spot in Money in the Bank, it's like, when is this just going to implode? But like I said, I don't think the Outlaws are as bad as Damage Control. Outcast, sorry.
Thankfully, EO is still in Money in the Bank at the moment. I will actually just relieve you there for a second. The EO is not out of the match as of yet, but Bayley's spot is up for grabs next week on SmackDown against Shotzi. Would that be a categoric mistake to take Bayley out of the match, though? Because, I mean, a Temple Players would be the first one to be in the comments and singing the Bayley song. The UK love Bayley. To sing that song and not have the opportunity to do that for Bayley in the UK, surely it'd be a travesty to not have her a part of the ladder match.
It almost would be a travesty for that British crowd alone. It would be, but like I said, it depends what they want to do with the narrative. Because with Dakota being out, I'm not seeing the point of Io and Bailey because they just every week it's the same thing. Bailey costs Io a match. Do you know what I mean? At what point are we going to get the snap and Io just turns on Bailey?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have to see. I mean, I think the Money in the Bank ladder match could be the place that sparks this problem, but we'll have to wait and see how it will play out. Sinisha goes on to say there's a Saturday, still not a good date for wrestling. Thanks, feels Collision may fail. Temple Place has got all his comments in from earlier. Temple, we've taken all of them at the start of the stream, so you might need to rewind to go and see what we have had to say about those comments you've put in. The announcer apparently said Buddy Murphy, if you go back and watch the introductions last night. Would that have been McGuinness? It might have been. You never know. It wouldn't just be us anyway. But let's quickly go into a couple more comments, and then we'll talk about one of our big talking points on the stream, because I feel otherwise we'll never get to them. Batman 901, thank you for checking out the stream, says, I like the storytelling that WWE is doing with Bianca Belair. Well, let's talk about that very quickly. Bianca Belair, obviously, and Charlotte Flair, I really enjoyed their interaction on the Grayson Waller effect this past week on SmackDown. What were your thoughts? I feel like this is a different side of Bianca that I'm quite liking.
It almost looks like we're getting a heel turn of some kind.
Yes.
But I'll be honest, I was watching it and I was like, oh my God, it's like watching two Charlotte Flairs. I was quite cringed at some points where I was like, okay. And I don't know if it's the aesthetic that Charlotte comes out in a one piece and she's all glitz and glammed, and then Bianca comes out and she's all glitz and glammed, and I'm like, it just looks like someone's arguing with themselves in a mirror at this point. But like I said, hopefully we just get full on heel Bianca Belair, and like finally we'll get to see her absolutely destroy people with that hair that I've been waiting so long for.
Yeah, I think it's coming. I really do. I think it's interesting Charlotte's the babyface in the role. For me, it seems quite interesting. But at the same time, I really want to see that feud, Charlotte versus Bianca. For me, it feels like it does feel a legitimate big deal when you see these two interacting on the mic. Like it's it's a proper rivalry as well that we could get without a championship, potentially, depending on how they book things in London in a couple of weeks' time with the Oscar Charlotte match. But I'm here for it. I'm enjoying the storytelling as well, and long may it continue at this particular moment. I think it's quite fresh.
I mean, how would you feel about them adding both Bianca and Charlotte to the Money in the Bank match?
I think it can become a point where there's too many people in the match. So for me, I like the idea of 6 people being there. 7 is the max for me. I feel that when there's been 8 in previous years, people tend to get lost, or there's too many people on the floor. It just feels like it's one of those, you come and do your spot, then you hide away for 5 minutes. So for me, I think it becomes too much. And I feel that you're 2 big heavy favorites that come into the match there, but the 2 people that don't need the briefcase. So I prefer them to be in the singles match or in a triple threat match.
Yeah, I get that.
Temple says, talking about Moose, if he has to go, WWE sign him. Everyone wants the Hurt Business back. Have Lashley, Moose, MVP, and Carmelo Hayes. Not a bad little lineup there, although we're missing almost our Homo sapiens. Where are you at?
That's terrible, man. Why would you even remind me of that, man? Do you know what? I'm actually surprised we haven't seen him much on TV in the last couple of weeks. Like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, do you know what? I can't remember the last time I saw Omos on WWE TV. Maybe I've missed that highlight. That's what I'm saying. It's been a couple of weeks. Maybe he's not Vince's favorite person anymore. I don't know.
Maybe he's who Logan Paul will be going for on Raw. No, he won't be. I feel Logan Paul, just quickly, just because it's not been mentioned, I don't know if we'll get a chance to mention it at all on the stream, but obviously he comes to Raw this upcoming week. I think they're going to build to his SummerSlam match, whoever that may be. There were rumors many, many months ago, the idea of Logan Paul versus John Cena. Any chance that could be a call-out?
Oh, that do you know what? I feel like that'd be a waste of a match. I think it does nothing for either person because John's not around enough and Logan's not around enough. So it's like, what's the point? It's almost like, yeah, I get it. It's the idea of an attraction match, but at the end of the day, no one benefits in the long run. It's just one of them things. From what I heard, it was going to be, wasn't Logan going to challenge Seth for the World Heavyweight title? That's what I heard.
That could be a case. It could be. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if they were to do it, I'd actually like to see Logan actually compete on a Monday Night Raw. I think that would be quite fun. I never saw the mention of the Miz earlier on, but Logan Paul versus Rollins would be awesome for the ratings for the YouTube. Obviously, they want to do it for the POEs and for the network subscriptions. But I think, like you said, that if they did do Cena versus Logan Paul, like you say, no one in the match benefits, but the rest of the card does, because more people were tuning into that show to see that match. So you get the SCW fans that have not been watching as much but grew up with John Cena. We love John Cena. The people that are Logan Paul fans, they get a chance to see something there. It could be something that could happen further down the line. And let's take one more comment then, and let's go in then with our CM Punk talk after this. AEW TNT Championship is officially the best, third best singles championship belt in AEW, and the International Championship is the second one. 100% agree with that, C Nation. We definitely have talked about that a little bit already. But let's talk CM Punk then, shall we? Because goodness me, we are 49 minutes into the stream, and so far we've not had a chance to go into it. Let's talk about the opening promo. CM Punk saying that he was tired of being the nice guy. One nice little ingredient that I don't feel like I've seen said too much elsewhere. Did you notice that CM Punk took the AEW logo off the microphone before he started talking?
I did not notice. No, I did not see that.
I feel that really interesting. It's almost as if like he's not flying the flag for the company; he's flying it for himself. He actually came out and said that, you know, as you said, there were several plays like was bringing up there, like "Tell me when I'm lying," with everything he was bringing up, trying to back up his facts, trying to almost be CM Punk. Obviously, he's so good on the microphone, whether it's brainwashing your audience or not. I mean, he has got a clever way of using his words.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Up until this week with the ESPN interview, this is the first time we've heard from CM Punk in 10 months. So he has a lot to get off his chest because, and from what he was saying, he was backing it up. It's not like he was waffling and talking absolute rubbish. He was backing himself up on what he was delivering. And the fact that he walked out with that AEW championship as well, what they're going to do with that, I think that just adds more intrigue to it. I think is what, like, they've done. I'll tell you what, it was a really well done return. Surprisingly, how it could have gone if, for instance, this hadn't have been in Chicago and it had been somewhere that possibly would have booed him out. Like, if, for instance, it had been in North Carolina, it would have been, do you know what I mean? He would have got booed out the building. So it was very well played by AEW with this package.
Absolutely. They're going to be in Canada for the next few weeks for Collision as well. And of course, like you say, they're doing the North Carolina for Kenny Omega's entrance, but he is actually from Winnipeg as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out. But I mean, the thing is with CM Punk, obviously, he went to make on a few comments there. He had to get a couple of digs in there. One of them was very clever. There's no way you've come up that with from thin air when he's mentioning the Young Bucks, obviously. He was said that one of the TV executives, he was saying that some people are like kids. He is the true adult in the room. And if fans like him, then they are smart. They are the adults as well that love pro wrestling. It's about professional wrestling with CM Punk. And he said that this executive called him One Bill Punk. He's guaranteed to draw. He's guaranteed to make things happen. Yeah, One Bill Phil. And he said that he is like the true entity in pro wrestling, unlike counterfeit bucks. For me, just an absolute killer line. Getting a dig in without actually mentioning, because he's not meant to be mentioning the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega in any way. This was a clever outside of the way of doing it. And for those fans that were sitting there, like, he's pointing out signs as well with like the Pepsi film and stuff like that. He was saying about people, you can like me, you can cheer me, you can boo me, and you can hate me. I kind of don't care about it. Again, making reference to that sort of executive is the only one that matters. But at the same time, he said that if you need an apology, I will do. I'm sorry that the only people softer than you are the wrestlers that you like. I thought that was a very, again, killer line there. CM Punk knew when to get the digs in on this promo, put it that way. It was certainly, definitely very talk-worthy.
It was very MJF-esque. Like, do you know what I mean? It was like the two of them have been working together on their promo skills. Like, the amount of snide remarks that he would say, it just felt like we've been hearing for weeks with MJF. It was like, you almost forget that it was Punk that was doing this before MJF. It was so good to watch. It was like I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what they do with it. I know he has a lot of stigma behind him, but at the end of the day, he is a massive draw. And I won't lie, I'm going to All In. I hope CM Punk's there. I've never seen CM Punk live. I've bought my ticket, and I would love to see him live. He still is an attraction, so it's just one of them things. Unfortunately, man, like he can cut you as deep as he wants, but people still want to watch him.
Absolutely, he is a draw. There is no argument about it. And like, he's been there, and like he said, he's sold out Madison Square Garden. He's sold out like every big building in Chicago. He's been around the country and been around the world.
Exactly.
CM Punk is one of the biggest stars out there. And obviously, you know, you mentioned MJF a minute ago. and he made reference to MJF also, which then goes back now into storytelling, which was quite fun as well. The fact that obviously MJF claims to be in the greatest dog collar match of all time, and he said, but it's one thing to be in the best one ever. I won the best dog collar match of all time. You alluded to the bag, which obviously wasn't Jake the Snake Roberts' snake in there, as much as we all could hope that it would be. But obviously, at the same time, the fact that the AEW World Title could be in there, and CM Punk saying, like, I this is mine really until someone can beat me for it. Like, this is when I get pinned or submitted, then, you know, someone can fill my boots. That's when I'll walk away. Interestingly enough, in that main event, and this is what goes to why this was such a good main event as well, obviously given a good 25 minutes, there was a point in that match where CM Punk was on the verge of losing. He was not getting out of the Coquina clutch from Samoa Joe. He was done for. If FTR didn't make the save, that match was finished. And they made reference to that on commentary at the end of the match as well, that Punk got the win, but he would have got the win had the save not been made. It almost makes me start to wonder, CM Punk saying, I'm not the nice guy anymore. He's taking the thing off the microphone at the start there. Almost feels a bit deluded, making reference to the executive, because he was the voice of the voiceless before. Now he's actually saying that, you know, instead of the crowd doesn't matter, it's the executives that do. The fact he's saying as well, like, if he can be beaten, like, is it all in his head of what he's saying? This is a new character we're going to get, and that, like, in a couple of weeks' time, this guy's going to be heel in Canada.
For me, I think it's just more egotistical than anything else. I mean, if we think back over the years in professional wrestling, what we know now about stuff that happened 20, 30 years ago with the likes of Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Triple H, all the backstage stuff that used to happen that we never ever heard of. But we obviously hear it more now. We get a lot more exclusive interviews with these people, and we find out these stories. And I think it's just a case of, it's the same as what we've been doing for 40 years, or the last 40, 50 years with professional wrestling. It's just the fact that the fans are a bit more clued in. And I think this is like what makes it sort of hit hard for some people. Like, this is why people seem to hate Punk a bit more, is because they know what's happened backstage. Whereas if you'd had that kind of promo 30 years ago by Ric Flair, you'd have just been, oh, that's just an amazing promo with no context to it. But we have context now. Yeah. And when it comes to the main event, I think it just makes people realize that although he still claims he's the best in the world, he's not unbeatable. I think it just, like, especially when Joe is the ROH world champion. So I think, do you know what I mean? I think it's match. I think it's giving Joe it's giving Joe something, because obviously he's the ROH champion. It's making Punk look human. He's not a god. He's not a god. He's a human man that claims to be the best in the world. And like he said, someone's got to beat him at some point to fill his boots and to take that title off of him. The title, that, if that is what the title is, who knows? But it was so well done that you're just really intrigued by it, and you're captivated because you know so much more context to what is going on backstage than what you would have done if we'd been watching this 20, 30 years ago in the Attitude Era.
Absolutely fabulous points you make there. I mean, that's a great counter argument. The thing is, though, the egotistical feel could be a great way to do the character going forward if they wanted to do a heel CM Punk.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel we're going to get that, though, or do you feel that CM Punk will remain babyface?
I mean, I think he's just going to be tweener. I think there's just going to be people that hate him, and there's going to be genuinely people that love him. You're just going to have to pick a side, unfortunately. Phil's just going to be Phil. He's going to say something that you're going to love, and he's going to say is the same. And some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. It just depends on what side of, do you know what I mean? What side of the road you drive on, I suppose. It's like you have to. One person's going to hate it. I don't know. But like I said, if it draws me in to watch it, that's a win in my books. I can't really pick sides. If it's got my attention and it makes me want to sit there and go, do you know what? I need to watch that. Like, I want to see what happens. I want to see how the story evolves. I want to see how it plays out. I want to see what happens with this title that he never lost. I want to see who's going to be the one to beat Phil to take his place. I want to see who's going to cut next in his next promo. Do you know what I mean? That's essentially what we watch wrestling for. So, do you know what I mean? He's doing nothing more than what I really want him to do, which is just entertain me.
Absolutely, and to be fair, I was going to ask which side of the fence you on, and to be fair, you've already answered that question. I'm on the same side. I want talking points in wrestling. I like when I've got something that to come and we come under these streams and go, goodness, CM Punk has said this, or CM Punk has wrestled this match. So much to dissect from this Collision debut. It's going to be interesting to see how it's going to play out over the next few weeks and months. And like you say, there's been so many seeds planted that we've got a lot to get from CM Punk just from 1 week alone. And imagine where it's going to be going forward as we go towards, say, potentially All In, like you said, a show you're going to, perhaps All Out. Is that in Chicago again? We'll have to wait and see this year. Full Gear. I mean, I can imagine that the feud with MJF will happen at some point, the idea of champion versus champion. I can see MJF winning that match and doing a sort of Money in the Bank thing of 2011, going through the crowd, doing the kiss at CM Punk. Maybe it's a form of escape. Maybe it's like a steel cage match or something. I don't know. Maybe ways that they can get around it. But it'd be interesting to see how it will play out. But one thing's for sure, CM Punk is a big talking point. And obviously, wherever it is, let's just say, fuel to a fire, because it will it will add some nervous moments to AEW as a fan moving forward. But at the same time, it's darn exciting to see how the ride's going to play out.
It is, and I think the biggest thing they have to try and work out now is they have to try and get Kenny versus Punk. Let's be honest, it's the match now that we all want to see because there's such a history to it now. Or even if we get the Elite versus CMFTR, do you know what I mean? Just something where we get Punk and Kenny in the same ring at the same time. It has to happen because it's almost going to be like one of them things like, well, we never got Sting versus Undertaker. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of them what ifs. And it's like, I think Tony Khan's a bit more clued into sort of realizing, do you know what? This is a massive money maker. Look, let's be honest. He booked Wembley Stadium for his first UK pay-per-view. The guy is not afraid to take, do you know what I mean? Take risks. And I think if he can get it done, Punk versus Kenny has to happen.
I mean, to be fair, if they can make it happen, it would be easily the biggest match in AEW history. There would be no argument that. That would be, I mean, I don't want to sort of overscale this a little bit because it's easy for people to laugh and say, I can't believe you compared it to that. But I always think back to WrestleMania 8 and thinking how they didn't book Hogan versus Flair and it never happened in WWE. Then it happened in WCW, the first opportunity. Not even on their biggest show, they just put it straight away when they got it, and then they made it, and it was a massive draw. It kind of feels to me like this is the biggest match AEW could ever do. And to think that there could be a chance that both of these guys were in the company for plural years and it never happened just seems crazy. Obviously, Brawl Out as give the idea that it may never happen. But if they can get everyone on the same page, like I said, the singles match, the six-man tag team match, Hangman Adam Page as well being involved again. Look, I mean, sure, there's money on the table. And as CM Punk did say in this promo, it's about business. It is about business. And hey, I mean, the thing is, doesn't everyone want to see AEW do better?
And let's be honest, what is going to draw their biggest crowd ever? It's going to be that match. We've had Kenny versus Hangman. We've had Forbidden Door. We've had this kind of stuff. But the fact that again that there's all this backstage stuff now. There's all this arguments and fighting that broke out and stuff. That now that we're going to get to see these guys do a pro wrestling match. Is going to be exciting to see because it's going to be, I tell you what, it's going to be hard hitting and I want to see it happen.
Absolutely. Same indeed there. And as Nation goes on to say here, would love to see CM Punk and MJF finish their feud. CM Punk never lost the AEW World Championship and they are 1-1 with each other. Of course, MJF getting the first victory over CM Punk in Chicago of all places. It would be awesome to see them finish that feud off. Arguably one of the best feuds in AEW history as well. So there's a lot for CM Punk to do. A feud with Samoa Joe seems a lot of fun to see in the short term right now, especially after the way they played things out in Collision. Obviously, CM Punk versus Jay White would be a lot of fun at some point further down the line as well if they could do it. But let's go into the comments then. In the meantime, Temple Plains here says, Phil, stop ducking Kenta. Obviously, the go to sleep battle, but Kenta doesn't want the match either. Both have said they openly do not want the match. So it looks like we're sadly not going to get it. Nubico says here, speaking of Charlotte Flair, do you think Bianca Belair will interfere in the women's title match against Asuka and Charlotte in 2 weeks on SmackDown? I would say that it's a sure thing that Bianca flying all the way to the UK to not get involved seems a bit crazy.
It seems that way. I mean, let's be honest. Charlotte's done what Charlotte always does. She's just gone. Do you know what? She's essentially become a Karen, and she's just turned around. You know what? I'm first in line. I want first shot at Asuka. Blah blah blah. And yeah, like again, I think if Bianca does interfere, this leans more into the heel turn for Bianca Belair.
It certainly could do. Certainly could lead to a triple threat match in the near future as well there. But yeah, as I say, it'd be a waste for Bianca to fly all that way to not do the job. I mentioned about watching Friends earlier on. It's like Rachel flying over to tell Ross that she loves him and she didn't do it. But then Ross said her name at the altar anyway. Spoiler alert. Sorry, Steve. Temple Plays.
The thing is I know the reference.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone it does not, I apologise. But it's an awesome series. Go and check it out. Temple Plays, I read that they are merging the history of both the WWE and Universal titles. You are correct. It feels at the moment that they're going to keep the Universal title lineage because of Roman's 1,000 days. The rumour is, thankfully, of the two titles, the Universal titles lineage will be kind of merged into the WWE title once Roman drops the championship. So we'll no longer have to say Universal Championship after that. It'll be back to WWE's I suppose undisputed title, what they got right now, like they had back in 2003, and the world heavyweight title as well in that sort of same time period. So interesting to see how those go going forward with it. But would you think that would be the right thing to do, by the way, Steve?
I would like to think that they get rid of the Universal Championship altogether because it's got a stupid blue strap on it, and we just go back to the normal black strap of the WWE one. But the fact the belt has undisputed written on it, I've got a feeling in 6 months' time we're going to get a brand new belt again by the looks of it.
Absolutely. Ghost Spider in-house as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they changed those designs if people are not so much a bit torn on them as well.
I tell you what, though, what did we say a couple of weeks ago about the women's titles? All you've got to do is change one to the Women's World Heavyweight Championship, one to the Women's WWE Championship. And hey, presto, look what happens. It's all solved. No more title swapping. It's all sorted.
They just need to do them tag team titles now, and then hopefully we don't have got to worry about it ever again. It would be quite nice to see. But Ghost Spider, thank you for checking out the stream. Hope you're doing well, my friend.
When my boy is Pretty Deadly, win them off to KO and Sammy. Do you know what I mean? Maybe.
Oh, absolutely. Are we ready for a side plate selfie? I don't know.
Side
we'll
plate
have to see. That's the one. Rick Jarvis, Bowen House says, how do you feel about my idea that Lee Moriarty needs to leave the firm and make a storyline where Swerve Strickland help him? And I think Big Bill needs repackaging and be sent to ROH. Personally, for me, if it involves the firm, I think it's always a much better idea than what's going on for Lee Moriarty right now. Personally, yeah, why not with Swerve? And I do think Big Bill needs repackaging as well. I think ROH could be a good shout, or certainly just have him destroy dudes on AEW like he was doing in Impact. The guy was booked so well in Impact Wrestling. He was really turning a corner. And now I feel like Big Bill is, well...
I think if he'd stuck in Impact, he'd have been world champion by now.
I agree. And that just goes to show there sometimes that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Several places, still outrageous to know that Jericho versus Sting has never happened before. I know it's outrageous. You are right indeed. But hopefully, before one of them hangs up the boots, we will get to see that match now. Certainly, maybe the tag team match capacity could be something we could see.
Possibly, yes. But if not, then all you got to do is wait till the end of the month, and then when Fight Forever comes out, you can play Jericho versus Sting on your game console at home.
Well, that's definitely going to be Fight Forever's first match then, isn't it? If we get to stream it, that's what you can do. Temple Plays will stream it. Temple Plays will have this sorted for us, probably even tonight. The entire CM Punk versus Elite is all a work, and we've all been worked. Do you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, because they're doing it quite well, because the Young Bucks responded to CM Punk's comment as well with the counterfeit Bucks thing. And they put on their Twitter bio saying that if this had been 2018 with Pro Wrestling Tees, the t-shirt would have already been out.
Do you know what it was? I was actually sitting down earlier and I was thinking about it, and I was like, do you know what? When the AEW first started out, nothing ever got leaked from AEW. Nothing. Like, especially like when Brody was sick before he passed away. Like, nothing got leaked at all. And I sat there and thought to myself, what's changed for AEW like in the last 12 months, 18 months, where like we get all these leaks? It's exactly the same as WWE now. And you know, it does make it more plausible that it could all be just a great big bloody work and we're all idiots and we've all fallen for it. Who knows? But hey, I'd be quite happily the fool for falling for it.
Absolutely. For me, it just would make it all the more enjoyable if I've been worked to the end of it.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
absolutely.
I don't need to know everything. That's the thing for me. And that's why I like not seeing some of the dirt sheet stuff. Like, I like the surprise elements,
Yeah.
We don't get that as much anymore. Eric, not a problem, my friend. Thank you for joining the stream. Hope you are keeping well. Ghost Spider says, EFW wants to make a new Hurt Business. The new members should be Bianca Belair, Bobby Lashley, Street Profits, and Carmelo Hayes. I mean, again, another fascinating lineup there if they were to make a new Hurt Business. I'll be clutching at straws, though, because we keep all saying for, I think, about 6 months now about a new Hurt Business. Are we ever going to get it? I mean, there's a chance. I mean, everyone else is a free agent apart from Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, it was a possibility, but then didn't Cedric and Shelton just get buried the other week by the Viking Raiders or something?
True.
I can't remember. I'm pretty sure they just got dominated in about 2 minutes by the Viking Raiders in a tag team match. So I'm like, there's no hope for them guys at the minute. They're currently sitting in catering, living their best life.
Yeah, it feels like it indeed. Catering must be good in WWE. Let's be fair.
It must be, yeah.
It's gotta be. Richard now actually asking our opinion because earlier on you went with The Miz, but now you've changed it to Dolph Ziggler and Jinder Mahal potentially. Who would you see going against Seth Rollins this Monday on Raw?
Hey, I'm just gonna give me Tommaso Ciampa. Why not?
I'd love it.
He's due back. Just give me Tommaso Ciampa. I know they're going to possibly reform DIY, but give Ciampa a shot, man.
And just because of that, I want it to be Johnny Gargano. Bring Johnny in. Johnny wrestling. Just leave Dexter Lumis at home. That's all I would say on that one. But yeah, absolutely indeed. Rick Jones says, who are some of the people you want to see sent back to NXT in your opinion? I think Shelton Benjamin could come down and train with Damon Kemp and give a new Olympic faction. I like the suggestion there, Rick, there with that. That's a really good shout indeed. If Shelton Benjamin's not doing much with Cedric at the moment, I mean, they could go on NXT anyway. They're free agents at this point. For me, if you're not doing anything in WWE, we've seen a number of people who are, I suppose, the free agents are making use of NXT with Baron Corbin, Mustafa Ali, but Dana Brooke now's gone down there as well. For me, someone like Tozawa would be a good shout to go to NXT at the moment because he's not doing nothing on Monday Night Raw, and I think he's a great in-ring performer.
Yeah. I mean, I think I said the last time, I said they can completely reinvent the Cruiserweight division again in NXT. Do you know what I mean? If you had Cedric Alexander go down there, Tozawa, go back to an actual proper wrestling style. I think, especially with a couple of the guys they've got in there, like Dragon Lee, for instance, they could have a banging NXT Cruiserweight division again. I think it would be something really special.
Absolutely, indeed. Yeah, it certainly could be very special indeed. We've got Eric Douglas here saying he wants to see Sabre Jr. versus Wheeler Yuta. That would be a banging match, to be fair. Even though both are heels right now, I still think the pure rules element would be fantastic. Also, Miro versus Sky Blue. I'm going with Miro Sakamura, if I'm not mistaken, Eric. You're going for that? Could be an interesting match. Sky Blue definitely is improving in ring. Fantastic match she had this past night on Collision and also on Dynamite as well. Fantastic stuff. Daz says, would you give Sting and Darby Allin a tag match if any of you were Tony Khan? Absolutely. At some point I would. Not specified a time frame on when, Daz, but absolutely. I think that perhaps against Jericho and Sammy Guevara would be the match I would do in the near future at this moment.
It's actually a pretty good shout, yeah. I mean, it's the way that it's leaning towards is that way, but yeah, like, let's be honest, Sting only does tag team matches now, so that's all we're going to see him in. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Jericho and Sammy's the best bet.
Absolutely, indeed. There, I'm glad it's been brought up because then we can actually talk about it in a bit more depth as well. Then, Ghostwriter says, "I predict Jey Uso will pin Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank." That is a bold prediction to Roman to be pinned for the first time since 2019. Ghostwriter, I am loving that prediction that's coming there. So let's talk about the Bloodline Civil War that's been announced for Money in the Bank. We're going to have it: the Usos versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. Would Jey Uso fall in line, of course, going as a storyline narrative throughout the night? Of course, Paul Heyman asking Roman Reigns if he'd been in touch with Jey Uso. And of course, Roman responded by saying, well, is Jey the tribal chief? No, he's not. So Jey should come to me. So he sent Paul Heyman out to go and see, of course, Jey Uso, which Paul Heyman did. And of course, Jey Uso said once again, well, if I'm in the bloodline, you're out of the bloodline. So don't be so happy about this idea. We see the backstage with Jey was going to go to the ring as well with Sami Zayn. Thankfully, no conversation. We've had a dozen of them this year alone. Just a nod of acknowledgement. Thought that was very well done indeed as well. Excuse me, it's thirsty work. And obviously, we then got to where Roman went to ringside, called out Jey Uso. Jey Uso, of course, then threw his suggestion out of the idea. Well, if I'm in, am I in or am I out? It depends on Paul Heyman. Obviously, Roman said, well, it comes down to your wise man. If you were Tribal Chief, that's who you'd pick. He's not the Bloodline's wise man. He's my wise man. What did you think when you first heard Roman say this?
It's just building more towards the split in this faction. I mean, like, I genuinely, I'm expecting Solo to super kick Roman just to complete the trifecta at some point, just to say all three of them have super kicked him. In fact, I imagine that'll be the final blow where we'll get a triple super kick to him. But yeah, it's you can't go wrong with the Bloodline at the minute. Their narrative is so good and it's just so well written and so well produced. It's just they're not putting a foot wrong, and it's really shocking to see. Like, I remember watching Roman for years just get booed out of places because he was just so boring and so predictable. But the fact that he's so entertaining now is just it's such a pleasant thing to see from where he used to be.
Absolutely, indeed. Then it's a great point I want to make actually with this towards the end. Because you mentioned about Roman Reigns and what they're trying to do with him and how they've not been able to succeed and how well they've done with the Bloodline storyline, what it could lead to going forward towards the end. But obviously, just when we thought we had our answer, like you say, we obviously eventually would get those super kicks. But Jimmy Uso coming out as well, and obviously that was the idea when Roman threw the idea of, well, with the right hand band stuff. That was the wise man's idea. You're upset with Paul Heyman. Well, it was his idea to call you that, main event Jey, but Jimmy was the only one who had a problem with it. And they talked about then the idea of them growing up and how Jey was always in Jimmy's footsteps, obviously being twins, but obviously look up to Jey, the older one of the two. Jimmy was always the one that got everything in school, the accolades, the prom king, stuff like that. And obviously it was clearly, you felt there was some upset there. And he said, Jimmy, you're out. And then he was like, so am I. And then that sort of super kick. Has there been a more satisfying moment, it feels? Because we've had a couple of those with, obviously, with the Bloodline. Sami Zayn being a very satisfying one at the Royal Rumble. Night of Champions, Jimmy Uso doing it as well. But Jey's one just really felt like it was just like, oh, that feels so good to see that happen there. Because it's been 3 years with them too.
Yeah, I think that's probably why it's the most satisfying. That's the one we've waited for the longest. Is the one where Jey purposely kicks him, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm excited to see when I imagine Solo turns on Roman as well, because for the fact that all three of the Sammy with the chair, Jimmy and Jey with the kicks have all been perfectly timed, and then to get Solo to that point where when he does it. And he does the spike or whatever, it's going to be just an amazing thing to watch. I mean, yeah, it's just the narrative that they're trying to play off with Roman trying to essentially force twins apart it's interesting because obviously twins are the closest siblings you'll ever get. You can't get any closer than being minutes apart from them. Do you know what I mean? So trying to drive a wedge between them is such an interesting thing to do because like he's obviously done it for time because he did it when he faced Jey in the Hell in a Cell, didn't he? And then Jimmy come out and then he choked Jimmy out to force Jey to quit and all this kind of stuff. So it's literally been like a 3-year story of him trying to separate these two brothers, then having to put them back together because they were actually doing something competently. Then they lost the tag team titles, and now he's gone back to trying to split them up again. It's just been amazing to watch.
It really has been. It's been beautiful to watch this narrative to this point. And obviously, the double super kick to Roman Reigns as well. I mean, Roman's chin, goodness, he took one there for the team, didn't he? But like you said there, with Solo, when is it going to happen? I mean, obviously, there is a chance after Money in the Bank. I mean, obviously, there's been the suggestion there that Ghost Spider said a minute ago of pinning Roman Reigns. But if Solo gets pinned at this and the Usos win, that could build perhaps Jey Uso to face Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. And Roman could lose 2 POEs in a row, but not himself, but due to Solo, and the blame could start going towards Solo Sikoa. Not the most magical fantasy booking I've ever come up with, but seems the most logical. Could that be the case that the blame seems to be thrown everywhere else, that now there's only one person to blame after this? It's Solo. As if he's not going to blame the wise man's the one that's his choice of sticking around. It's Solo who's going to get the blame next.
I think actually, mate, it probably works out better for him because then when it's just him on his own, because I imagine once Solo leaves, he's probably gonna get rid of Heyman as well, because I think he's just gonna inevitably be sick of Paul Heyman and get rid of it, and it's just gonna be Roman. And then when it comes to him and he losing those titles, he's only going to have himself to blame because he didn't have anyone else. He didn't have Heyman. He didn't have Solo. He didn't have Jimmy. He didn't have Jay. So when he loses them titles, it's going to be the biggest impact on him because he only had himself to blame.
It's going to be beautiful, and that's a great way of doing the arc of the story. There's one other thing, though, that I said a few minutes ago now, but which I'm going to bring it back up now. I said was WWE wanting to make Roman into this top babyface, which didn't work. Obviously, like I said, it was being boring and booed out of buildings and stuff like this. Obviously, 2015 Royal Rumble, a prime example. Obviously, Roman Reigns, if you look at this story that he's gone through as well, Roman is the monster heel at this particular moment. He is the mafia boss, if you will. But every time someone has left Roman, he's not turned on them. They've turned on him. Is it to a degree that, yes, Roman, it's all gone to his head, but ultimately Roman does feel like a bit of a victim every time he's the one that someone leaves the group, because Jay super kicked him, Jimmy super kicked him, Sammy hit with the chair. If Solo was going to break away, it could be Solo that does it as well. Is it to a point that WWE, once they've got everything done with this Bloodline storyline the way that they want to, they can finally push Roman Reigns as that babyface they've always wanted?
Possibly, but then I feel more that with every time someone's turned on him, it's always been down to a moral choice. It's never been down to anything else. Like Roman was forcing Sammy to try and hit Kevin with that steel chair, so he was testing his morals on, like, is your friendship with Kevin bigger than being in part of the Bloodline? And Sammy just went no. And then obviously everything that went down with Jimmy, and then Jimmy ended up super kicking him because he turned around to Jay and was like, this is the thing, it's always been Roman that's forced these people to do these things to Roman. So I don't think necessarily think of it that way. I just think it's Roman pushing people's morals, and like he seems to have no morals, which is why he can just excel at this level and be the tribal chief, and he can do and get away with whatever he wants. And to be part of the Bloodline, you have to have the same kind of morals where you don't care. You will do anything to get the job done. So, like, you will hit Kevin with the chair. Wasn't enough. Sammy couldn't do it, so he turned. Then, obviously, everything that happened with Jimmy, and then Jimmy just turned and went, do you know what, Jay? You should have done this a long time ago. Boom. Do you know what I mean? Jimmy learned quickly because he was getting cast aside because he wasn't doing, like, he wasn't stepping up to what the tribal chief wanted. And it's like I said, it's a moral thing with him. I don't think it's anything else at the minute. Like, it could develop more.
It could develop more. I mean, obviously, you could combine the two. I mean, I love your idea of the storyline that Roman only has himself to blame. I love that concept. And obviously, once he loses that championship, looks in the mirror, that could be the way then he changes his ways and goes back into perhaps being a babyface, say, further down the line. Obviously, he may take his break, then he may come back, and then it may play out that way. But certainly, going to be fascinating stuff. And obviously, for Money in the Bank, what a hell of a main event they've got in store now. Arguably the hottest storyline in WWE. And they had a hell of a main event last time they were in the UK, which you were there for at Clash of the Castle, Drew versus Roman. Obviously, Roman and Solo versus the Usos. I mean, for me, I have to argue and say that I think that's one of the best endings in SmackDown history.
It's probably in one of the top 10. It's probably in there with the top 10. Like, obviously, I can't remember every SmackDown finish ever, but yeah, it has to be up there. I mean, it was. Do you know what I mean? Even like, I don't know if you've seen the digital exclusives of afterwards, where the crowd are just like, "You deserved it," and I was like, "Do you know what? Go watch the digital exclusive of what happened afterwards," and you've got Roman just in the ring, and the crowd are just going, "You deserve it," and it was like. Hey man, it's been so brilliantly done. I can't wait to see what happens at Money in the Bank now, because again, it's this point where we get with Roman, where we get to a pay-per-view and we're like, is he going to win or is he going to lose? Is he, like, obviously we know the title's not up for grabs, but there's someone else that can cost Roman a match, and it's like Roman doesn't lose that often, so the fact that we get to this point every month where we're going, is Roman going to lose this month? And we go, yeah, he's going to lose this month. And then he doesn't lose. And then he gets to the next month and the same thing over and over again. It's shocking to see how well this has been booked.
Absolutely. They play it to perfection, and we're going to have that dilemma coming up in a couple of weeks' time once again when we go through Money in the Bank and the predictions there. But what I can say to our chat, who's been very patient in the stream, it's all you now. We've done the main topics we wanted to cover. So now we're literally going to do all of our comments through to the finish, and we're going to try and do that. Steve, are you okay for about 35 minutes?
Go for it.
We'll round us up to the 2-hour mark. And obviously, we've had some suggestions about the rest of the Forbidden Door cards. So several places gone with 4 matches here. Potentially FTR versus Bishamon, which would be Goto and Yoshihashi. Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. and 2 more. John Moxley, Jericho, Hangman, and the Bucks are not booked currently for Forbidden Door, which does seem mad when you think about it. I imagine those would be the sort of names you definitely would expect to be added to the show even during the last week. Tatsumi Naito is also
Naito isn't booked either. Booked. Yeah, that's the shocker one.
So some big names there. Is it something you'd like to see in amongst that lot there?
Naito is the biggest one from New Japan. I'm shocked hasn't got a match yet. I think, but then again, there's got to be a narrative for him to have a match. You can't just say, "Oh, here's Naito versus someone." I mean, there's more chance, I think, at this point of Minoru Suzuki getting a match than Tetsuya Naito.
It seems to be at this moment, obviously, and he wasn't booked Naito last year for Forbidden Door, so it would be a shame if he's not included on the show this year as well. Ghost Spider says, I heard rumors Samoa Joe's AEW contract expires at the end of the year. He did join at the end of the year, so there could be something in this, but obviously I don't know the source, so I can't really go and say whether I think it's true or not. But Samoa Joe, for me, obviously, heck of a talent. Obviously, he's got definitely a big upcoming few months in AEW with a potential feud with CM Punk.
Hopefully, I mean, like I said, I know that they originally had a massive trifecta of matches back in ROH some years ago, which I've been told to go and watch because apparently they're really good. But it's just a case of if it is up at the end of the year, I'm sitting there thinking now, does he stay? Does he go to Impact, for instance? I'm trying to sit there and think, what is next for Joe once his contract's up? Because I wouldn't want him to go back to WWE, not how he was treated last time.
No, for me, I think he'll stay put. I think he'll re-sign if that's the situation at the moment. But as I imagine, I mean, he's been put pretty well, Joe, since going to AEW and Ring of Honor. So I'd like to see him stay put personally. Richard has spelt spoiler wrong and means prediction. Zoe Stark wins the Money in the Bank leather match, and Shinsuke Nakamura for the men's there as well. Certainly good predictions there. And Rick Joe says, "Give me Sting versus Suzuki for New Japan Forbidden Door." And I think Jericho is going to face Steve and SCW. In your opinion, I don't know. Well, I hope he's not going to face Steve or me, to be fair, because Jericho would probably win. But he's got a group as well. Even if we have the numbers advantage, he's got an appreciation society in the background. So I don't fancy our chances. But certainly,
he may be 15 years older than me, but he's got about 40 years worth of wrestling more on me as well.
And he's got all them spikes on the jacket. Just don't take the jacket off. He'd be fine, wouldn't he?
He's got a baseball bat as well.
Absolutely. So there you go. Ghost Spider says Gunther versus Samoa Joe is a monster dream match. It certainly is indeed.
After them chops, definitely.
Oh, would love to see that match. Jonathan Salmonhouse. Jonathan, thank you for checking out the stream. Hope you're doing well. Just say, if you all enjoyed the video, please make sure to hit the like button as well. Would love to reach out to more people if that is a possibility. Would really help the channel in certain ways. Ghost Spider says WWE should have 6-man tag team championships. Do you think the trios titles should come to WWE in some format?
They don't push for factions as much as what AEW does. It doesn't make sense. There isn't enough factions on there to have a trio championship. Would be pointless. I think if you'd have said it to me a year ago, yes, possibly, but not at the minute now.
I think they have a lot of factions, but it's whether they stick around together. I think that's the problem with it, because if factions are just around for a cup of coffee, then it's not going to help. Like, for example, LWO. I feel they're building a long-term play here where Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio will be rivals, possibly next year's WrestleMania, in fact. I think that's where the storyline will lead to that. So it's like, how long do you keep the groups together? Like, obviously, we've got the OC. I imagine they'll stay around for a while. The Bloodline now is crumbling. We want a Hurt Business. You look on Raw, we've got Judgment Day that have got crumblings as well. So there is an argument right now that it might not fit.
This is the biggest problem with WWE is Vince just changes. He gets bored with his factions too quickly. I mean, I remember the Brood like it was yesterday, and to think that I think they were around for like 6 months, 6 to 9 months or something like that. But in my head, they were around for like 3 years. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's just Vince, man. He doesn't like the idea of factions being together for long term. But if you look at New Japan and how they've done it, like it gets everyone on the match on the card, man. Even if they're not wrestling, it just gives them some airtime on TV. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's what we want to see going forward anyway. But I mean, Temple loves the idea. Just say, by the way, New Day, of course, to be the first champions, right? If Big E would be healthy, would be awesome to see. I mean, that would be a good placement to have him back. But I agree with you. I mean, WWE and Vince gets so bored of it so quickly. And you mentioned about the Brood, by the way, being a group for like 6 to 9 months tops. Edge and Christian were taken out of that. The Hardy Boys were put in it for a spell of that as well before they won the Terry Invitational.
Exactly.
So the Terry Invitational tournament, you can do the math of what they were going with that in the Attitude Era.
And Temple just essentially a bag of money as well. That was it.
It was, yeah, and that's literally the famous No Mercy video game. You know, where like obviously every ladder match, like some would go falling backwards, like Jeff Hardy does that same fall, and they literally mimicked it into the game as well, which very nice touch. Temple Play says, "Give me Jericho versus Naito," but I don't want Naito. Don't think Naito was allowed to be booked for the event. Same with Andrade, Rouge, and New Japan are partnerships with CMLL. That could be a reasoning for it. Yeah, that would make sense.
We had Naito versus Jericho a couple of years ago.
We did we went over this on our stream last week. Yeah, it was at Dominion the first match, and then Wrestle Kingdom was the second match. They're 1-on-1. Yeah, 1-on-1. They've never had the rubber match, so would be fun if they did that. Would be fun if they did it. I wouldn't be against it one more time. How do we feel about Dirty Dango's new character on Impact? And also, how do we feel about Jimmy Jacob in AEW and the creative team? And also, Jerry Lynn and Stokely Hathaway are now with Ring of Honor as the GMs. So, yeah, lots to dissect there, Jonathan. Thank you for all of that. I would say very quickly, Jerry Lynn and Stokely, fantastic for Ring of Honor. I actually said when Stokely did the firm to begin with that I was hoping Stokely with the business cards was going to be a GM for Ring of Honor. So I think that's a perfect natural fit. Do you think it's a good fit?
Yes, Stokely Hathaway is great, man. He's like, even when he was like in NXT, like he's one of them characters. Like he has Teddy Long written all over him.
Absolutely. And as for Jimmy Jacobs, obviously fantastic creative mind. Obviously, I think could be great for AEW. Obviously, it was tight with the Elite. Obviously, if you remember back in the day, he was fired from WWE from the poses with the Bucks and that with the Bullet Club pose and stuff. So there's history there. I'm not surprised that he's joined AEW. Do you think Jimmy Jacobs would be great for the creative of AEW?
Like I said, whatever AEW's gain is WWE's loss. So do you know what I mean? It's all a win-win for them.
Absolutely, indeed. And Jimmy Jacobs has done great work in Impact over the last few years. And Dirty Dango, how dirty can Dango get? Obviously, being the one to attack the DOA Santino Marella, of course. Dango, let's be fair, I think that he needed something because he was playing a goofball character, really. So just to give a bit of a heel direction, freshens things up a little bit is what I would say with that. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Dirty Dango's actions and impact as of late.
I haven't, no. I know that obviously Santino Marella was the GM of Impact or something like that. I've seen a few of his funny moments, but I've not been up to date on Impact as what other people are.
No, that's fair play. Fair play to that. WWE 26 in the house says, who do you think that Pete Dunne will come out at Money in the Bank? I think that could be the starting point for it, though. Obviously, Butch is going to be the name announced, but wouldn't it be great if they just said Pete Dunne on the night?
I would like to think so. I mean, it makes total sense because he'll get a proper pop if he comes out as Pete Dunne. I mean, the dynamic they're doing as well now, having Sheamus and Ridge as the tag team instead of Ridge and Butch. So, yeah, it's a possibility.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Richard, we've already answered this question. Silk went with Ciampa, and I went with Gargano. Although more likely it'll probably be neither. Probably end up being Dominic Mysterio. Actually, there we go. There's a full prediction there for you that I'm going to go with because Judgment Day seems to be involved with all of them at the minute. So we'll go with that. Tony D'Angelo in LWO, not for me. Obviously, a Hispanic stable with Mexican, Puerto Rico. Tony D's like from Chicago with like Italian soprano kind of background, so it doesn't work for me.
No, more. I'd rather Dragon Lee.
Yeah, Dragon Lee. Oh yes, hello, Dragon Lee. That'd be a great fit. Dragon Lee versus Rey Mysterio, by the way. Book it. Needs to be done before Rey hangs up. Bobby Lashley versus Logan Paul at SummerSlam. Could that be Logan Paul's direction? I guess not if he's going to be on Raw, but I would like to see the match.
if someone doesn't like Logan Paul that much and just wants to see him get hurt, then yeah, absolutely. But my God, like, at least give Logan Paul some sort of like opportunity or chance.
Well, speaking of hurt, I mean, maybe it could be business in there. We've got another suggestion for hurt business there. Kamala Hayes, Trick Williams, MVP, Bianca Belair, Street Profits, and B Fab. No hit bro in sight.
That's a massive faction.
That is a massive faction, dude. That's taking over. That is, and of course, there's no business without profit. If Seth Rollins is still World Heavyweight Champion by SummerSlam time, and it's just an open challenge, it's answered by returning Big E would pop the crowd. That would be quite a cool way to pop the crowd if they were to do that. I mean, for me, I'm quite open to that idea.
Yeah, hopefully. Like I said, it's just all depending on whether Big E comes back. I think it depends on the dynamic. Again, having face against face is just one of them things. I think if someone else was champion by SummerSlam and you did that, fine. But I don't think it works for me with Seth versus Big E.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Richard now is going with Apollo Crews potentially for Seth Rollins there. I imagine we'll probably get 3 or 4 more answers before the end of the stream. If it wasn't Nigel, it was the ring announcer who announced Buddy Murphy, apparently. There you go. So that would be Dasha Gonzalez, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure if she's changed the name for AEW, but that was her WWE name as a ring announcer. Bianca versus Asuka versus Charlotte for SummerSlam. Certainly potential with that triple threat, and you could move for Charlotte and Bianca afterwards. Yeah, I would be down for that. They could also do this at Money in the Bank, and then they could do Belair versus Charlotte at SummerSlam. Although more than likely, a WWE pay-per-view is returning in September. On September the 2nd, Payback is coming back. Of course, remember the last time Payback was a pay-per-view was when Roman won the championship, the Universal Championship, that show, which I believe was in the triple threat match against Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman.
Wouldn't it be funny if you lost it at that show as well? But going back to this one. Again, I've just got hope that the narrative gets better for Bianca and Charlotte doesn't fall into her same tropes that she's always been in. Just like those two at the minute are just really kind of lackluster for me, and I really need something to bite. Hopefully, by the point we do get that match, Bianca is a heel, and I don't know what's going on with Asuka. Like, they made her come back as this new iteration of Asuka with the poison mist and something, but she can't hit a single person with it. So I don't know what the point is. It's a really difficult scenario for me to be interested in that particular dynamic at the minute.
Yeah, her aim is off. That's something for sure.
I sat and thought the other day, if you wanted to make someone look like a proper badass, is have Asuka hit them with the mist, but then they just stand there unfazed. I think that would be more impressive.
It would be more impressive indeed. Charlotte Flair has gone from start to champion to main event to now another Karen in wrestling, says Noob and Co. There, obviously, you made that suggestion about being the Karen as well there. I know it's In the Share. Cedric and Shelton lost to In the Share. They did. Well, they had the beatdown, didn't they? Yeah. They had the beatdown. Yeah. I don't think the match actually officially started, but when it does.
So they've given them another opportunity or something, I think they said.
Oh, maybe, probably.
There was a video package where Jinder, I think it was last week, Jinder was like, oh, yeah, we'll give you another opportunity to have a proper match. Like, they won't jump them this time or something. And I was like, what was the point of the first one? You should have just had the match.
I can't wait for that. Richard, the comments are getting a bit silly, my friend. Now, you're just repeating yourself at this point. I'm going to have to skip over a few of them, unfortunately. Jonathan says, wow, Steve, I didn't think about that. That's a good one. Cedric to NXT. Nathan Frazier's won the Heritage Cup, absolutely. Sean should turn the trophy into a title. Mustafa Ali is there too.
Exactly. Nathan Frazier's awesome wrestler.
He's a fantastic wrestler.
Wesley's there as well. You've got such a great roster there of like cruiserweights.
It's amazing. And just to say, anyone that's looking out for them, the predictions are already available on the channel for Gold Rush Night 1 is available on the channel now. And I do a couple of predictions for Night 2 as well. Mr. Full Catch in the house. Hope you're doing well, Mr. Full Catch. Thank you for checking out the stream. Says, hi, guys. Tomorrow will be the last qualifying match for the Women's Money in the Bank. So who do we got? Trish or Raquel? It's an interesting one because I can see arguments for both sides here.
I would like to think it's going to be Trish just to build on the story with Becky. That's the only thing. Don't get me wrong, I would like to see Raquel in there, but I just think that Trish is the bigger story at the minute.
So originally I had Raquel as that last spot. Now that we see that it's Raquel or Trish, I feel like you said, Trish could be the favorite here because I imagine Zoe Stark will probably help her get there. I know Raquel's had so many different tag team partners, but at this moment, I don't think any of them are going to be in the house to help her. So I would say I will predict Trish as well, but I do think it'd make more sense for Raquel to be in the match because she's got more of the breakout star ability with the briefcase, if you want. I mean, Trish could still be a factor in the match with Zoe Stark being the competitor there, but Trish has never been in Money in the Bank, so this could be a first time for her. So, yeah, I'll stick with the prediction also being Trish. Also been asked here, do we think Cody Rhodes versus Dominic it's a good ideal for Money in the Bank? Yes. I think so. Silk, I'll let you take it first. You're very keen here.
This is going to be fantastic, man. That British crowd is going to piss all over Dominic, excuse my French, and it's going to be fantastic to watch. And then you're going to get Cody come out. He's going to be cheered like he is the WWE champion. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I hope and cannot wait for it, man. Especially if Rhea's going to be involved as well, because those two, their dynamic at the minute, it's just fantastic. And let's be honest, sarcastic Cody is best Cody, because the other week when he was like, "Oh, come on, guys, don't boo Dom."
Yeah.
Sarcastic Cody is best Cody, man. I just love it, man. This will absolutely be one of the best matches on the night.
I think so. For audience participation, I think it's going to be good. And obviously,
absolutely.
I don't think Brock's making the trip, but could you imagine the prospect of actually Dominic winning through Brock costing Cody Rhodes the match?
Oh, it would be amazing. Don't get me wrong, it would be amazing. I'd actually be up for it, man, because it's just one of the things where seeing Dominic winning in London and with that crowd just booing the hell out of him would just be amazing, man. I'm up for it just for the fact that I want to see the reaction to the crowd.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I wish Dominic was in Money in the Bank because I just think every time we go up the ladder,
I'm gutted he's not.
The tension in the crowd would have been something.
I would like to see. Do you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see a reverse of when Carmella won it, and I want to see Rhea climb up the ladder, grab the briefcase, and throw it to Dom. Because no one can touch Rhea, so Rhea just climbed the ladder and be like, "What are you going to do? You ain't going to touch me." She'll just grab the briefcase, throw it to Dom. Dom wins.
There you go. And everyone was mad, but James Ellsworth did it for Carmella. I wonder if they would be as mad. Would they be mad in that case? But I think it's a great idea for a match. I think that certainly, I don't think it's going to be a long match. Cody will most likely win it. So, yeah, I think for me, it ticks a lot of the boxes for what they're doing. They've been building for it in the last few weeks. And gives Dom another breakup potential moment as well on a big pay-per-view also. Brandon, thank you. Got a few comments here come in. So let's start with this first one. How do you feel about Andrade into a feud with the House of Black? Do you like my idea for Collision? If I was to book, I would turn Miro into Malenko of AEW and take Cassidy's title. I mean, into the Malenko, into a more technical style wrestler with the Texas Cloverleaf. I like the powerhouse of Miro more, if I'm honest, but Miro versus Cassidy was suggested earlier in this stream as well from Temple Plays. Certainly wouldn't be something I would be against.
I think with Miro, his style is just too explosive and it's too powerhouse orientated. To have him go to a if you was to have him wrestle a Malenko style, I think the crowd would just be like, "What's going on here? Why are we getting mat-based wrestling from Miro? I want to see him hurt someone." But like I said, to watch him take the title is a great shout. We said that earlier. And then what was the other one? Seeing Andrade in a feud of House of Black, like I said, it's a plus, man. Like I said, they're going to be doing hopefully much better things now going forward on Saturday nights.
Absolutely. And for me, I feel the same. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that feud, how it's going to play out there as well. And obviously, Andrade does have some backup. It's just when they're going to be brought into the conversation.
Don't Andrade and Malachi actually have history from NXT as well, didn't they? Yeah. They were feuding for the NXT title, I think, at one point as well.
They were, and had a fantastic match when they did do so. I think they had a couple of great matches actually in the past, but I believe the one was on the maybe on the WrestleMania weekend. I want to say New Orleans was the WrestleMania in question when they did that.
I think that's right, because I think you'll find it wasn't the main event, because that was my biggest issue with Black when he was champion in NXT. Is he was the champion and he was never main event. He was always the match before, and I was like, man, Aleister Black is not. Why isn't he main event? But they were doing the whole. I think it was the whole Ciampa Gargano thing at the time.
He was like the CM Punk of NXT, obviously from WWE's run also. But also we hear about Marseille and Mansois apparently getting repackaged. If so, what would you do with the two guys with them in your ideas? To be honest, I didn't know this, and we'll see this as take it with a pinch of salt as a rumor if that's the case, because I actually quite enjoyed what Maximum Man Models were doing. But what I would say is, if they were to, just as an idea off the top of my head, imagine a team that is stuck in catering actually make catering a thing onto our TV screens.
These two could be the new what were the two that dressed up as coppers every week and did like CSI and then Law and Order and
Fashion Files.
I think if you had Mason Mansoir do something like that, like I've heard this rumor as well at the start of the week that now that Maxine is now with Alpha Academy, Vince isn't sold on Mason Mansoir, but Triple H is, but unfortunately Vince isn't, so they're going to repackage them. But I think if you went something along the lines of how they were doing with the Fashion Files with I forget the guy's names.
Tyler Breeze and
Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Yeah, if you had some, let them do something along them lines. Let them be a comedy tag team. I think they'll do really well. Like they were doing actually really well with the whole Mason Mansoir thing.
Absolutely. And last one from Brandon before we move on to other comments. And I know your first answer to this one. How do you feel about Pretty Deadly?
Yes, boys.
Yes, boy. We love Pretty Deadly here on this channel. We think they're amazing. We love their chemistry as a team. We love the fact that they are characters. They've got personality.
Some good old school dirty tag team wrestling cheating going on with these two. And do you know what I mean? It's been ages since I've seen that.
Absolutely. They are a cross between the Beverly Brothers and Edge and Christian for me. And I've got to say, I can see more Edge and Christian each and every day. Hopefully some 5 seconds of fresh photography will be in their future. But I'm going to asking now about Von Wagner, or Von Wagner, whichever you prefer. Now he's kind of growing on me, says Brandon. I've got to admit, I found Von Wagner as someone that I was very uninspired and very uninterested in NXT. With the current storyline they are playing out on a weekly basis, getting to try and open up, especially with his past as well, that is a storyline I am interested in knowing the conclusion of. So I've got to say I'm becoming more invested in Von Wagner right now as well.
It's only taken them 18 months to make him remotely interesting. So, you know, I suppose it's a plus. Like, the only thing he remotely did before that was the first night he was on NXT when he was in a Fatal 4-Way. Because he saved Kyle O'Reilly, I think, from being beaten up or something, and he got earned a spot in the championship Fatal 4-Way or something like that. But yeah, like you said, you're just glad that they're doing something with him now that's intriguing and actually gets you interested in the character, because that for me, for the longest time, that's what NXT's felt like. It just feels like they've got so many people, but I've got nothing to like relate to. There's no character depth with any of them, so I'm glad they're doing something.
Absolutely. Let's see how it's going to play out with him. Hopefully, it's all going to go well. Mr. Full Catches, do you think that Brock versus Cody at SummerSlam could be a 3 stages of hell? Oh, I like the sound of that.
I more than likely, I think it's going to be a dog collar match.
Dog collar match should be fun. I'm going to go with. At first I wanted to see a bunkhouse match because we've not seen one of them for a while. But I'm going to suggest the idea of the old cowbell being brought in, a former sort of strap match, because we've seen like this cowboy vibe going on. The 4 corners with the turnbuckles as well. I can see that being brought in, a sort of an old dusty gimmick as well. I think that could be a potential rubber match. But I reckon a gimmick match certainly will be their match at SummerSlam for sure. Does Stokely Hathaway remind you so much of Teddy Long? And also, do you hear that X-Pac wants to come to AEW? Would it be like Christian is doing, and obviously X-Pac and Darby feud? I wasn't aware of X-Pac with that, but he can obviously apparently can still go. Apparently, he's been doing some work in GCW over the last year or so. Why not? I mean, if he can add something to the product,
if he can elevate someone to the next level, by all means.
Yeah, by all means, indeed. And I didn't really see the comparison with Stokely and Teddy Long, to be honest. I think Stokely.
I just meant that they're very iconic characters. Like, they're easily rememberable because of the stuff they do. That's why I compared him with Teddy Long, because everyone remembers Teddy Long, and like I said, with Stokely Hathaway, you always remember the stuff he does because he has that ominence about him when he's on screen. Like, even if he's not talking, it's his facial expressions that he does and stuff. He's, like I said, he's very he draws your attention without you even realizing it.
I like it. Now, to be fair, I can see that when you come with it from that angle, absolutely, yeah, certainly makes a lot of sense there. Temple Blaine says, and Cedric Alexander versus Wesley would be great. Certainly would be. X-Pac versus Darby, old generation versus new generation, absolutely makes great point indeed if they were to do that match. Dom Dom beats Cody, upset of the century, it would be. Absolutely, I think it would be. Would make Cody further away from finishing that story. Ghost Money is saying that Cody will destroy Dominic at Money in the Bank. Certainly
No,
could
never.
be. Never. And Temple says, I did say Sanders versus rematch at Mania like last year. Hopefully, it's an LWO story. Will be that. I'm great look into the future when it comes to pro wrestling. Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, you did say it before, but I would say probably not the only person ever in life to have said these suggestions, though. Obviously, Santos and Ray, I think is a dream match a lot of people would want to see. And definitely now, when it comes to this as a storyline, now I think it would work going with the LWO storyline going into WrestleMania.
My problem with LWO / Legado del Fantasma is that as amazing as they are, they're not doing anything with them. Like, yes, they've given this repackage as the LWO, which is great. It's sold a load of t-shirts, but if that's all it's been done for, it's not worth it at all. It needs, do you know what I mean? You need to give, like, Andrade needs to win a title, man. Not Andrade, Santos Escobar needs to win a title, man. Like, I've been crying out for years when he was in NXT for him to win that NXT championship, and he never done it. And it just seems like he's another one of these people that gets to that point where you think he's going to win it and then never does, and then has to reset completely and start all over again. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe a US title run or no, not in the well, unless it's no, because it's got to be a US title. I think he's on SmackDown, isn't he? So yeah, like hopefully a United States title run, I think for him would be good. Even for the once they sort these tag team titles out, give Del Toro and the other one a run with the tag team titles. Joaquin Wild, apologies. Yeah, like Zelina, I'm telling you now, is being built really well. She is a really, really good shout for a dark horse for the Money in the Bank match as well. Like, I would not be surprised if she walks into that and walks out with that briefcase.
They did a good job of her. They're really doing the underdog story really, really well at this particular moment there.
Ever since like the pop she got when they went to Puerto Rico for the. She obviously, I think WWE realized now that she can be a star and actually can be a champion. I mean, like she first ever Queen of the Ring. Do you know what I mean? So, just hopefully they can start elevating her and put a title on her as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a possibility. And obviously, you mentioned about AWO. Apparently, Carlito has come out on a mic and said the rumors are true. Apparently, he's going back to WWE.
So glad about that as well. I'm excited for that.
Would he would add something to AWO? Obviously, I imagine he probably would be building talent for the future, let's just say. I don't think, obviously, his age that he'll be a top guy, but certainly, it would be great to have him back.
I'd like to think he's the reason why Ray and Santos end up having the feud.
I
reckon, I think he spits in the face of Rey Mysterio because he's not cool.
I like it. Solid impression as well, though. Temple says Chris Hero was backstage at AEW Collision last night. Oh my God, we all want the Kings of Wrestling, right? I mean, there was the partner with Claudio back in the day. But I'm going to say something very controversial now. I never saw it in Chris Hero. I never saw it. Is it just me? Am I on my heel? On my own here?
No. I'm a massive I was a massive Cassius Ohno fan in NXT. Like, even though he was unfortunately gatekeeper for NXT, and it was like you had to beat Cassius Ohno to go up to main roster. But I was a massive fan of Chris Hero, and like I said, I don't even think he's actually wrestled in some time now. Like, I think he's completely just stayed into. I think he has a training school or something that he's just been doing. I don't think he's actually been wrestling, but I'd not been funny put him in Blackpool Combat Club and stick them back with Claudio. I think he's a great shout.
Yeah, why not? They could do it. I mean, the thing is, for me, I'm always open to be invested in the character. You know, he was booked in WWE a certain way, and I didn't really buy into it. Let's say I've not seen so much of the Ring of Honor work. I'll be quite honest with that, really. But I've seen a little bit of glimpses of packages of Hero and Claudio when they were together, and it did look pretty decent. So yeah, could be fun. I wouldn't be against it. see what happens. Mr. Full Catchers, we don't if the Civil White Bloodline thing is just a promotional thing for the match, or is it a stipulation? Because I think it's a promotional thing for Solo and Roman versus Usos. It is literally promotional at this moment. I think as well the idea of using Civil War, obviously all the Marvel stuff as well, I think is an interesting play on how they're looking to do it. But fingers crossed, if they do anything stipulation wise, then they'll let us know before the match. But at this particular moment, from my understanding, and I think NXT would be right in saying that it is literally just a promotional tool at the moment.
As far as I'm aware, yeah. But I think to make it interesting, something needs to be on the line. Like it needs to be a case of if Roman wins, Jimmy and Jay are gone. They're fired. Do you know what I mean? They're gone from WWE. I think you put that sort of thing on top of it. I don't know. Maybe it adds too much to the fact that you know that maybe Jimmy and Jay are going to win. I don't know, but I think there needs to be something like something on the line in that match for it as well.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Ghost Spider says, "Do you guys think Gunther versus Matt Riddle is going to happen at Money in the Bank?" I do. I think that's a match that certainly will happen. It's been built up for at least the last few weeks now.
It is. I'm just unfortunately not interested in Matt Riddle. I'll watch it just to watch Gunther destroy him, but I'm not Matt Riddle's biggest fan at the minute. I think he just bores me, if I'm honest.
To be fair, I feel the same with the Riddle character. I need to see a bit of change in it. Obviously, he had a bit more of an aggressive streak come in. I want to see less of the comedy antics, but it feels like this was being built whilst the Mustafa Ali match was meant to be happening at Night of Champions. So Money in the Bank for me, obviously they could drag it over the SummerSlam if they wanted to, but Gunther coming to the UK feels like a thing that they will inevitably do. And of course, Gunther with those hard-hitting chops, you can't rob London of that. So I think that would be a good match you could throw into the show.
I think there was concerns a couple of weeks ago that it wasn't going to happen. And I think Gunther was actually saying that I'm be shocked that I'm not on the Money in the Bank card. So hopefully it does get on there.
Fingers crossed it does get on there indeed. We'll go for the last sets of comments then we've got, and we'll wrap up the stream in the next 5 minutes. Jimmy Jacobs could be an on-screen personnel and bring back the Age of Full for Ring of Honor. Of course, Jimmy Jacobs had a lot of history with Ring of Honor. I believe he was there for something like 10, 11 years or so before going over to WWE. And certainly it'll be interesting to see what he'll be doing when he goes through to AEW at this point. Like I said, there's a lot of connections there. Previous Ring of Honor talent, obviously being tight with the Bucks of the Bullet Club as well there. So Jacobs can bring a lot in going into AEW.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but he has. I don't know a lot about ROH's history, but from what you hear, he's a massive part of creative when it comes to a lot of stuff that people praise him for. So it's all going to be pluses for AEW.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Ghostwriter says just his opinion, but I like this opinion. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus DIY White should happen at SummerSlam. They would need to get a move on though to get Gargano and Ciampa back on our screens, though.
I think it's rumored. I think that's supposed to be the rumored match for SummerSlam because I think Ciampa is due back, and I think Gargano has been doing these promos apparently teasing about when he gets here. But I don't know whether Ciampa's going to join the Way. But DIY, that's going to be a mad match. That'd be crazy, that match.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Richard, you are right. Seth Rollins will challenge Finn Balor, but that will be at Money in the Bank. I love this comment here. This is one of my favorite comments of the whole stream. If LWO turn heel, then W should name them into Legado World Order. That is a fantastic shout. One of my favorite comments of the stream here.
Shout.
Brandon says, didn't you say that SCW that if... no, I didn't. I haven't said that. I have not said that at all. Ghost Spider was the one there to first make mention of that there. Got to say, we thoroughly enjoyed it. Imperium versus Judgment Day War Games match. Would love to see it one day if it could happen. And our last comment then of the stream, or last couple of comments there. WWE Payback is coming back with Roman's historic reign began and will end. Long-term booking certainly could be the case. Thank you, Lucas, for joining us. Hope you're doing well. I would say probably rewind at this point. We're about to wrap things up, unfortunately. But do please hit a like button. And Temple says, NXT would love this. Seth freaking Rollins and Pretty Deadly. Pretty freaking deadly.
Freaking deadly. 100%. That sounds like a badass stable. I'm all up for that now. I want that.
I'm going to say for the people watching on delay, if you can see those last comments there with Ghost Spider and Temple Plays there, of suggestions there, of name changes there for groups, It would be worth it alone for those people to do so. Honestly, brilliant stuff from everybody. Last question. How do we feel about Impact lately from Lucas? This will be the last question we'll take. Enix Steve, obviously, I know that you've not been following Impact too much, but are you aware of anything going in that you'd want to share?
Unfortunately, I'm not. I mean, as much as I'd love to keep up with it, like some of the ideas and the groups and the wrestlers they've got down there, there is some intrigue in there, but I just don't have enough time to keep up with it. Unfortunately, like I said, I just don't have enough time in the week to watch everything.
It is very difficult, and that's what we said at the start of the stream. Is that going to be the same thing for Collision at some point as well? Because if you find time to watch this show, maybe another show is sacrificed and is not watched. And Impact this week for me has been. I've not had the chance to see it as of yet, but I will say Impact is an underrated product. They are doing fantastic work. A lot of their shows seem to be, especially when they do their specials, they do fantastic stuff almost each and every time. Really enjoying the ABC Tag Team title reign. I think Nick Aldis turning heel on Alex Shelley was the right move to do. I explained this last week on the stream. Have heard and read about it, but I've not seen it yet. But Aldis being a heel seems like the right move going, because no one's going to boo Alex Shelley as your world champion. Bully Ray, I think he will be leaving Impact after Slammiversary, and they're looking to build towards that, but sadly not as locked down as I wanted.
I did hear about that. What it didn't? No. I think I'm just thinking of Twitter the other day with Bully Ray. But yeah, I heard something about like he's like a retirement match or something for him. I don't know. That's probably the only thing I've heard about it.
Yeah, I think he's going to be teaming with Steve Macklin against Scott D'Amore and PCO. But yeah, should be an interesting match when they do it. And also, why does Pretty Deadly fit good on SmackDown? They're growing on me, Steve. Lol, yes, boy. Pretty much because they're awesome at what they do. They fit in on every roster they've been on so far.
Wait till you get their side plate checks. Yes, boy.
Absolutely. That needs to happen, but unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's going to happen the night before Money in the Bank, but certainly going to be fun to see indeed. But that is pretty much our stream there for us. And Steve, I want to say a massive thank you to you for joining us here today.
As always, man, it's always a pleasure to be here. I'm pretty sure we've got another one coming up pretty soon where I'm back on here again.
Do you know what? I'm going to throw the invitation out now. SCW Rewind next Sunday, Money in the Bank 2016. Would you like to join for that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Money in the Bank. Isn't that the one where Dean wins the title by the end of the night, if I remember correctly?
Yes, all three members of the Shield are WWE champion in the same night. So that's
spoiler alert for someone that hasn't seen it 7 years later. But
yeah, if you haven't seen it, but it's worth going and watching for that. Then coming and join us and hear us review about it next week. Of course, that was the show that was voted for by the viewers in the poll. So I would recommend anyone that
disappointed that no one wanted.
Yeah,
disappointed that no one wanted my corporate ladder Money in the Bank like pandemic MITB. I was very upset with that.
It came second. I know C Nation voted for it. It came second. Yeah, literally. But yeah, and also we'll have Money in the Bank predictions as well. That'll be on the stream after. So yeah, pretty much a lot coming on. Forbidden Door predictions will be dropping on the channel this week, but I will say at this moment, I can't guarantee they'll be live. So I may have to do a pre-recorded video for them at this stage, but we'll see as and when we go along with that. But there are two more comments coming in. I will do those quickly before we wrap up. First one then that comes in from Lucas Thomas says, what if Sheamus cost Butch by accident? This could lead to the Pete Dunne return versus Sheamus at SummerSlam. Nice bit of fantasy booking there from Lucas.
I'd like to see the Intercontinental title involved in that if they were going to do that at some point.
Same indeed there. Mr. Fullcatcher says, I don't know if you're going to feel about this, but Liv Morgan comes back from her injury. Does she deserve to win the Women's Royal Rumble because she got a horrible booking of her first title reign? And goes on to say, I think that she deserves another chance to prove that Liv Morgan, she can be a great champion.
I don't actually think she suffered since, like, don't get me wrong, the reign was bad. But I don't think she's suffered dramatically since. I think like she's had ample opportunity. She's been a tag team champion since. She's not done. Do you know what I mean? She's not had the worst of runs after. Like there's still people in WWE that have never won a championship that have been there for years. So yeah, like I said, I think she's done all right. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to see her win the Rumble. It's just it's more of a when it gets closer to the time, who they're building kind of thing, what they're looking for Mania, whether she's going to be the one to do it or not. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Bianca wins it again. Do you know what I mean? She goes on the main event Mania and yeah, do you know what I mean? We'll get to that in January now.
Yeah, it is a while away. Obviously, we don't want to disappoint people too early, but at the same time, what I would say is that with Liv Morgan, I think that she deserves another chance to show that she can be a great
Absolutely.
champion. And I think that when you look with Liv Morgan, obviously, like you said, she didn't have the best booked championship run, but WWE did a great way of booking her. Outside of it, they changed up the character. They changed up the way that she was, dressed into the ring. Her style was a bit more risk-taking going forward. She's had a tag team championship run with Raquel, had a great run in last year's Royal Rumble. So, literally, for me, I do think that there's a possibility that she could come back and go all the way next time round. But obviously, we'd have to wait and see as and when it would go. But I reckon her chance would come even if it wouldn't be at the Royal Rumble. She could be a great shot for Money in the Bank again this time next year.
I mean, even as an early prediction, having her win the Rumble to go on to face Rhea, because obviously they were the final two from the Rumble this year. So I think if you had to win the Rumble, then she goes on to face Rhea at Mania, I think is a great storyline narrative alone.
Absolutely, indeed. Then Richard with one final say then against Kevin Owens. Seth Rollins will be taking on the entire Raw roster, is a spoiler from Richard. But that's all from us anyway. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to SCW. Big thank you to NXT for being involved as always. Big thank you to the chat as well. Literally, every single one of you are awesome for keeping us going for well over 2 hours today. It's been great fun to discuss everything pro wrestling here. And like I say, if you watch this on delay as well, thank you. You've taken 2 hours out of your day to watch this full all the way through, and we appreciate you for it. Thank you for watching. Look after yourselves and each other. And like I say, videos will be dropping in the week. Forbidden Door predictions will be coming. There will be perhaps a snippet from this video coming out as well. NXT Night 2 for Gold Rush as well. Predictions will be dropping next week. And of course, me and NXT will be back next Sunday for Money in the Bank. Obviously, a retro review for 2016. And then we'll do our predictions also for the actual Money in the Bank show as well. That'll be coming up in the following week. That's all from us. Thank you for watching. Look after yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.